Good afternoon and a warm welcome to all. First of all, I would like to thank each one of you for registering and joining us today for PharmaceutiCal 2021. I feel extremely proud to say that this pioneer virtual orientation program that started last year is back again after it received great accolades and has been organized by Department of Pharmacology and Therapeutics, State GS Medical College and KEM Hospital, Mumbai, in collaboration with AstraZeneca. We organize such programs to enlighten the young minds about medical affairs function in the industry. I, Dr. Apeksha Bhandari, Manager Medical Excellence from AstraZeneca, would like to welcome each and every one of you once again. PharmaceutiCal was started last year with an objective to orient students on the role of pharmaceutical physicians in medical affairs. Wish I had such an initiative when I was in my post-graduation. This also provides opportunities for budding pharmacologists to intern with AstraZeneca. This year, we are keeping the best part of last year, refreshing it and going a notch higher. Based on the feedback we have received last year, the agenda has been customized, keeping in mind the postgraduate students. It also has poster presentations. Top 3 will be given awards, and above all, you would get a time to interact with the faculty of the day live at the live faculty interaction session. With this short context, let's not keep you or our dignitaries waiting. Let's give a warm welcome to our dignitaries on this virtual platform. I understand it's a virtual platform, but let's welcome the dignitaries with a round of virtual applause. I would like to start with our first guest, Dr. Sandhya Kamath, who is a professor and head, Department of Pharmacology and Therapeutics, State GS Medical College and KEM Hospital, Mumbai. She has an undergraduate as well as postgraduate teaching experience of 28 years, member of various institutional ethics committee, chairperson of the Institutional Animal Ethics Committee, treasurer, Forum for Ethical Review Committees in India, faculty at workshops on clinical research methodology, GCP, preclinical research, and herbal research. Has won many awards for research studies and published papers on rational use of drugs, ethics in research, drug utilization studies, and evaluation of medicinal plants in the treatment of various disorders. Is also the co-author of the textbook Pharmacology and Pharmacotherapeutics. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Sandhya Kamath. Ma'am, what would your advice be to your students and what should they look forward for this year's PharmaceutiCal?
Thank you, Apeksha. Good afternoon and a warm welcome to all the participants of PharmaceutiCal 2021. Last year, when AstraZeneca approached us with a proposal to organize PharmaceutiCal, my first thought was, how would PharmaceutiCal be different from Pharmatech workshops, which, as some of you know, is a popular national workshop conducted by our department. But there was one meeting with their team, and it took us very little convincing to understand that this would be a first of its kind program to orient the postgraduate medical students to the medical affairs function in the pharma industry and the role of the pharmaceutical physician. Some of you may be aware that the role of medical affairs in the industry is evolving very rapidly. Till recently, medical affairs was merely considered as a support function. However, today it is regarded as a third strategic pillar for the pharmaceutical enterprise, along with research and development and commercial. I would strongly recommend that all of you read the article published by McKinsey and Company on a vision for medical affairs by 2025, wherein in this era of digitalization involving real-world evidence, electronic medical records, genomics, and also innovative ways of mining and interpreting this data, they have envisaged an ambitious vision for medical affairs as one that embraces these changes and seeks a positive impact for patients and healthcare professionals. Today, medical affairs is thought of as a frontline division that can help pharmaceutical businesses win the battle. And as future medical affairs professionals, with your medical credentials, scientific knowledge, and credibility among stakeholders, you will be taking a leadership role in the face of current technology, economic, and regulatory trends. Through PharmaceutiCal 2021, we attempt to give you a bird's eye view of the various roles that you will perform as a medical affairs professional including regulatory, clinical research, brand planning, and strategic thinking, but more importantly, improving outcomes for patients using novel approaches. Thank you. I hope you enjoy this program that we put together for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for those words and encouragement, and also looking forward in terms of PharmaSteer 2021. Our next guest, Dr. Padmaja Marate, is Professor Additional, Department of Pharmacology and Therapeutics, SGS Medical College and KEM Hospital, Mumbai. She has more than 22 years of experience of teaching undergraduate as well as postgraduate students, 35 publications in national as well as international journals, 15 research awards in areas of drug utilization studies, neuropharmacology, research ethics, preclinical research studies using Indian medicinal plants, has contributed a chapter as a co-author in a book of phytopharmaceuticals. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Padmaja Marate. Ma'am, again, any words of encouragement to the students this year? And also, what should they look forward in PharmaSteer 2021?
Thank you, Apeksha, for the kind introduction. Good afternoon to respected guest speakers, esteemed officials from AstraZeneca, and dear students. I once again extend a hearty welcome to you all from the organizing team. With great pleasure and enthusiasm, we are hosting PharmaSteer 2021 program, and we are happy that because of the virtual platform, we are able to reach out to a large number of students across India. As Dr. Apeksha said in the beginning, even I had the same thought. When I was a pharmacology postgraduate student, I never had an opportunity to know about the work profile or challenges related to career in pharma industry. Even today, as a pharmacology teacher, when I'm asked the same question by my postgraduate students, I'm still not able to give them a clear and specific answer. So when AstraZeneca approached us last year, with this initiative of holding an orientation program for postgraduate students, we were more than happy to accept the proposal and to collaborate with them. And now PharmaSteer is an annual event. This year's PharmaSteer program has been painstakingly planned, keeping in view the suggestions and feedback given by the student last year. A session on faculty interaction is the highlight of this time's program. I'm eagerly awaiting to attend the PharmaSteer program as much as you all are. So happy learning to you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. And again, happy learning to all. Our next guest is Mrs. Amarpreet Kaur Ahuja, who's a Senior Director of Human Resources and heads the Human Resources function for AstraZeneca in India. She's a postgraduate in human resources and has experience across prominent international organizations such as Berkeley's, TCS, and Northern Trust. In her career spanning 2 decades, she has led and delivered on several strategic priorities, built cohesive teams which have driven the growth agenda of organizations. Diversity and inclusion is closest to Amar, and she has been a strong proponent of building inclusive and diverse workspaces. She has led several women's and disability forums in her career. Please join me in welcoming Amarpreet Kaur Ahuja. Ma'am, any words of encouragement to the students, and what should they be excited in this year's PharmaSteer?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Apeksha, for such kind words and a warm introduction. Firstly, I do want to be thankful for having me as a part of this wonderful, group of people, esteemed panelists that are there around the table. Thank you so much, Dr. Sandhya and Dr. Padmaja, for your kind words and for sharing your perspective about PharmaSteer and what you've liked and how interesting it has been a journey for you as well. As we've partnered together since last year. I must share with you that I think we are equally excited as a part of AstraZeneca. For us also, like last year, we curated this whole space of PharmaSteer, wanted to partner with the academia and make sure that, as an industry, when we talk about different verticals, different streams of professions, it's very important that, we are able to create the right partnership with the academia and make sure that that helps us and is ready to create the right grounding for all our student community of people. Pharmacologist is absolutely a very, very critical space, as you all are aware. And I think, with my co-panelist, Dr. Anil, who could also share his perspective, a very, very strategic pillar, a very strategic space, because like you rightly said, it is so much so about our patient outcomes. One of our biggest values in AstraZeneca is that we put patients first. And to put patients first, there's nothing more that we can speak about than the scientific acumen or the acumen that the medical fraternity brings on the table. What is it that their scientific knowledge that brings out and then helps shape the broader strategies of any pharmaceutical organization? And the critical role that this fraternity plays in shaping how we function, in making sure that the right elements of solutions are brought to the patients, is the only way we can thrive in the pharmaceutical industries. And therefore, because it's such a strategic pillar and medical affairs as a function is such an important space, creating this early partnership with all of you as students is a space wherein we would be able to show to you what that world looks like. What are some of those important areas that you have to be mindful of if you're choosing medical affairs as a profession, as a career for yourself? What is that world looking like? Are you ready for something like that or not? Is that the right space where you would like to build a career and a profession for yourself? And are you really driven and motivated enough to create that path for yourself? If the answer to that is yes, this is the place, this is the right space to be in from a PharmaSteer perspective. It gives you a very beautiful showcase of the entire landscape and then allows you through the whole journey in terms of deciding where and how you would like to move ahead. So all the very best to each one of you. I'm sure you love the experience. And as my fellow panelists were sharing, faculty interaction is going to be the key highlight of the entire program. I'm sure you learn through those experiences and understand through this particular partnership, and you will have a very, very fulfilling journey as you go along the path. Winning is not really the space that we're looking at, while at the end of the day, it will, result into the right partnership and internships will be offered to people, while that's the outcome. But I think the journey will really make you understand what it means, what is the impact you can have as a medical affairs professional. So all the very best to each one of you, and I'm hoping that you will really enjoy the journey with us. Back to you, Apeksha.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your words and encouragement, as well as showcasing how important medical affairs function is in a pharmaceutical industry. Next, we have with us Dr. Viraj Rajudaksha, who is Middle East Asia Area Medical Director from AstraZeneca. He has more than 15 years of working in various multinational pharmaceutical industry and is in AstraZeneca for more than 8 years. His professional goal is to be regarded as a pharmaceutical physician who endeavors to spread and practice the highest standards of pharmaceutical medicine, both inside the organization as well as externally in the environment. Personally, he believes in working to the best of his ability, learning from all possible situations, and an attempt to make a significant contribution to all who directly or indirectly interact with him in any capacity throughout life. He's also a proud Gosumek. Please join in welcoming Dr. Viraj. So any pearls of wisdom to the students, as well as what should they look forward in this year's PharmaSteer 2021?
Thank you, Apeksha, and a very warm welcome to all the attendees for the second PharmaSteer program that we are doing in India under the broad umbrella of Mediate. First and foremost, I would like to thank Dr. Sandhya, Dr. Padmaja, and the entire department for this fantastic collaboration. The PharmaSteer program under the Mediate umbrella is very unique in two aspects. Number one, this is a purely make in India program. This is a program which was conceived and developed in India. And then we decided to partner with our own colleagues in Egypt, who immediately took this program. And then we expanded to Argentina this year. So this is a program which started in India and is now across 2 or 3 other continents. And in 2022, we will expand it to 3 or 4 other countries, such as Turkey, Malaysia. The role of India-trained pharmacologists in the world of pharmaceutical medicine has increased significantly over the last few years. And at every roles across the globe, you see our own trained medical experts who are contributing to their level best. And this program creates that unique foundation along with the wonderful training program that you have. The uniqueness of this program is One is the educational activity that we will have over the next 4 weeks. And the second aspect is the internship program. The internship program has been uniquely conceived to provide you with an hands-on experience, but at the same time, learning from all of you where the science is going. And this is our endeavor. Our endeavor is to learn from all of you as to how we should change our own ways of working in the industry. And we call it as reverse mentoring, where we are learning from students and from postgraduate residents. The internship program is also a collaboration of medical and HR, finding out the gaps, the challenges that we all have, and at the same time finding out innovative solutions. So I'm sure that this program is going to be really very great, and all of you are really going to enjoy. Most importantly, let's all learn more. Let's all learn from each other and keep our eyes and ears open. And always a great pleasure to be partnering both with the department as well as with AstraZeneca India. I would fail in my duty if I do not thank the leadership of Dr. Anil Kukri and specifically Amit Kumar and Apeksha Bhandari, who have really worked, and Shweta Surve, who have really worked very hard to make this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Viraj, for that words of encouragement and also telling how unique this program is and how we can learn from each other. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Our next guest, Dr. Anil Kukrita, is Vice President, Medical Affairs and Regulatory at AstraZeneca India. He has more than 15 years of working in various multinational companies. He's a strategic, visionary, and accomplished medical leader, having diverse experiences in pharmaceutical as well as biotech industry. Recognized for forming a very well-grounded, responsible, and committed medical team comprising of medical affairs, clinical research, regulatory, PV, quality, and medical information personnel. Passionate for patient-centered initiatives, medical strategy, launch readiness, capability building, data generation, as well as policy shaping. Please join us in welcoming Dr. Anil Kukrita. So again, the same question, what would your advice be and what should the students look again for this year's PharmaSteer 2021?
Thank you, Apeksha. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. I think at the outset, I really want to thank Dr. Sandhya Madam, Dr. Padmaja Ma'am, and Dr. Urmila Thatte, who's also along with us as a first speaker, and Dr. Viraj for laying a very strong foundation. And this foundation was laid in the form of starting a very miniature internship program. And we learned from that experience that we need to provide orientation so that really people who want to opt for career in medical affairs in pharma, they really first be oriented towards that and then pursue the internship. So I think that really expanded this from internship to a orientation program. We branded as PharmaSteer. We started last year. And as Dr. Viraj was saying, not to repeat it, but I really want to thank him because this program has really gone to now many countries. And this program is supported by international medical team. And learnings from this internship and PharmaSteer has created and coined the mediate brand umbrella, which is the medical talent acceleration. And we are talking about contributing not only to AstraZeneca, but across the industry in terms of identifying the right medical talent who's oriented towards medical affairs, who knows what medical affairs role is, and aspires and passionate about coming and joining this field and contributing and taking it to the next level beyond what we have contributed and created. So I think that's something which is aspiration and bold ambition for us. And I really want to thank here the core team, particularly who have really contributed. And I want to start by thanking Mansoor and the HR partnering, which was done right from internship days. Of course, with the core team every year. And this year, of course, Amit Kumar, Apeksha, and Shweta, as well as guidance from Dr. Mangesh, who really created this whole PharmaSteer program in this year. At last, I really want to thank all the participants who have expressed interest. Without you, this program will not be successful. And more importantly, personally, selfishly, I would say, I really like to be in the company of students so that I also feel young, right? So it's all, the students always make you feel young. So I really look forward to, and please enjoy the learning. More importantly is we should enjoy what we are doing. So have a fun, while you learn, right? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Anil. Like they always say, young at heart. So thank you so much for that words of encouragement. Light, brightness represents positivity, the good and the good spirits. It acts as a guide, keeping us from stumbling in the dark. So let's inaugurate this program by lighting up the lamp. Thank you everyone. Vandana is a Sanskrit word meaning wisdom. Chanting the Saraswati Vandana mantra is believed to remove all the obstacles to success in one's education as well as career. To recite this, I would request Dr. Viraj Rajadaksha to kindly come forward. Sir, over to you.
Thank you. And as always has been practiced in our culture, let us start this unique program with a prayer to Ma Saraswati, praying that she impart us with knowledge, wisdom, and most importantly, humility. Ya kundena tusharha dhavala, ya shubra vastramruta, ya veena danda mandita kara, ya shweta padmasana, ya brahma shuka shankara prabhudevai, devai sada vandita, sama patu saraswati bhagavati nishesha zadyapaha. Let us pray to the goddess of knowledge and wisdom that we always pray to her and she always resides with us in our minds, in our homes, and in our hearts. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Viraj. With this, I would like to thank all the dignitaries for their time and encouraging the students and inaugurating this event. Before we start with the scientific sessions, a general guidance to the students. Every session is scheduled for 20 minutes. You can ask the question related to the topic during the session using the chat box option, which would be answered during the meeting in the last 10 minutes. The online assessment is of 90 minutes, the link of which will be provided towards the end of the program to students who are eligible for internship based on the college and university requirements. Participants should complete the assessment on or before 17th December 2021. Top 5 will be given internship opportunities in AstraZeneca, India. The topic of the poster would be shared to the students via mail today, and the general guidance would be shared by Monday. Kindly note, students eligible for posters are the ones who are not eligible for internship and thus online assessment. Kindly submit your poster by 18th December to the link provided in the mail. Top 10 would be asked to present the posters to the panel, and based on it, top 3 will be given awards. This year, live faculty interaction is for second year students and who have registered telling they were interested in interacting with the faculty. Kindly note, the link of the faculty interaction has been shared to you via mail. Kindly do not share it to anybody else. Kindly join as soon as the last scientific session gets over. With all this guidance, I'm extremely delighted to pronounce the first speaker for scientific session, who is none other than Dr. Urmila Tatte, Emeritus Professor, Department of Clinical Pharmacology, St. GS Medical College and KEM Hospital, Mumbai. Listed among the top 2 scientists in the world based on citations of papers. Core team for National Ethical Guidelines for Biomedical and Health Research involving human participants, developed training modules on GCP and advanced GCP, National DSMB guidelines for the DCGI and WHO. She's received awards such as Excellence in Drug Research Award, Traditional Medicine Central Drug Research Institute, B.N. Ghosh Oration Award of the Indian Pharmacological Society, Dr. Farooq Abdullah Oration of SMS Medical College, Jaipur. She has more than 300 publications in national as well as international journals, including 10 books. Ma'am, over to you to take us through the session of Overview of New Drugs and Clinical Trial Rules 2019. Ma'am, over
Thank
to
you, Apeksha. Thank you, Apeksha. Let me share my slides first. Oh. Can you see the slides?
Yes, ma'am. See the slides as well as
Yeah. So we're starting with a very boring topic, I think, which is the new drugs and clinical trials rules. But these are the most important rules when you go into industry, because this is what will govern you for throughout your conduct of clinical trials. And I will cover very briefly because I have 20 minutes in which to cover this. So the first thing is I want to tell you is that this was issued on March 19th, 2019. I like the alliteration that it gives, March 19th, 2019. And it has 264 pages, 13 chapters stating 107 rules, 8 schedules, and 27 forms in the 8th schedule. But what is more important is that it has prerequisites, gives the prerequisites for the conduct of clinical trials, bioavailability and bioequivalent studies, clinical trial related injury and compensation, etc., etc. But what is more new or very specific is the ECA registration. ICMR guidelines are notified. That means now they become kind of law, because these people say that you have to follow. This law says you have to follow ICMR guidelines. It also talks about post-trial access, describes the composition of ethics committees, and several new definitions, including orphan drugs, academic clinical trials, and so on, are also described. What is important, and I want you to remember this always now, forever, is that Schedule Y is now not applicable. So do not say I refer to Schedule Y or I have done this trial based on Schedule Y or anything. It has to be based on the NDCP rules, because Schedule Y is now not applicable. Can you remember this? I don't know. I find it very difficult to talk to my computer, because I don't get a response from the students. Like Dr. Kukreja mentioned that he remains young at heart because of students. I also believe that, and I believe that teaching was my profession and I used to enjoy it. But what I used to enjoy was the interaction with students, where I could see their eyes and I could see somebody going to sleep or not going to sleep. I can't do that now. Never mind, I'm talking to my computer. So we go to the actual meat of the NDCT rules. The first thing is about ethics committees. They have described 2 types of ethics committees. For clinical trials, BAB studies, these are one type, which register with the DCGI. And for any other type of research, these ethics committees have to register with with an authority, that is ICMR essentially, MOH and FW. They function as per Indian GCP, while this is supposed to function as per the ICMR guideline. The registration by DCGI is given for 5 years, while this the NITIC gives for 2 years, although the final registration is given for 5 years. And they say that the ethics committee has to be in the same city within 50 kilometers of the site, while there is no specification in the biomedical research group. Now, I have shared my slides with you. The reason I've shared my slides is I have I've hidden many of the slides in my presentation because I have only 20 minutes. But you can you can look at the slides if you want some more details. Coming to the definitions, I told you there are certain new definitions, and academic clinical trial is one of the new definitions. So a clinical trial of a drug which is already approved for a certain claim, but is initiated by any investigator, academic or research institution for a new indication or a new route of administration, a new dose, a new dosage form is an academic clinical trial, where the results of such trials are intended to be used only for academic or research purposes and not for seeking CLA approval for any country, not just our country. Possible overlap, if the ethics committee feels that there is a possible overlap between the nature of the clinical trial and which is academic or a regulatory, then the ethics committee has to inform the CLA, the authority, the licensing authority, that is the DCGI. And the DCGI has to reply within 30 days. Unfortunately, we've had experiences where the DCGI does reply and in the negative, but after 30 days. And we don't know really where we stand with that. And many times the trial is completed also in the meantime. So it really becomes very difficult. The academic trial has to be conducted according to the approved clinical trial protocol and the national ethical guidelines. See, this is what I'm saying, that it is notified that whatever you do, you have to do according to the ICMR guidelines. Now, biomedical and health research, on the other hand, is defined as studies on basic and applied or operational research and any type of clinical research which is to increase scientific knowledge about disease, etc., but does not include a clinical trial. This is very important. Now, when it is a new drug, investigational new drug, it means any systematic study of a new drug or investigational new drug to generate data, etc. There's no change in this definition, actually. What is an investigational new drug? Any new biochemical or biological entity of substance which has not been approved or for marketing in this country. Orphan drug means intended to treat a condition which affects not more than 5 lakh persons in India. I think it's 200,000 in the US. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Kukreja or Viraj, but in India, they've defined it as 5 lakh persons. I want to take you to another aspect of this NDCT rules, that is the constitution of an ethics committee for clinical trial. It should contain at least, the constitution should have 50% of its members not affiliated with the institute. Now the DCGI's people, when they give you permission, when they register you, they make sure this is true. And for example, our KEM ethics committee was not approved because one person extra was there. That means it was not 50%. It was some, I think 7, 8 people were affiliated and 7 were non-affiliated. So you have to have equal number. Well, if you can't have equal number because you're 15, so you'll have to have more non-affiliated, I suppose. Member secretaries from the same institution. They have also defined, although this is not the quorum necessarily, but they've also defined that there has to be one woman member. Of course, we have more women members. We have to find a man to be a member of the ethics committee. One independent member from social sciences. The rest of it is remaining the same. The other thing that becomes important is the training. The training is very important and they look at your training. So training sessions have become very important, and medical scientists and clinicians shall possess at least postgraduate qualifications. If I remember correctly about the Schedule Y, the responsibility of ensuring that the ethics committee, or I think GCP also, that the ethics committee is properly trained and registered rests with the sponsor. I don't know if that's true with the NDCT rules. I don't recollect reading this, but it probably does lie with the sponsor. So it will be your responsibility when you become medical affairs people. Of course, EC members have to sign a declaration of no conflict of interest and minutes have to be recorded, etc. So all ECs have to be registered with CDESCO, and validity, as I mentioned, is for 5 years. The important thing is that within 90 days prior to expiry of registration, the ethics committee has to apply again for re-registration. If you do that, then you assumed to be continued unless a specific order is passed not allowing you. Now, maintenance of records by the ethics committee has to be 5 years after completion of trial. And in case of non-compliance, the DCGI holds the right to suspend or cancel the registration of the ethics committee, and then you can't really do any work. The biomedical and health research people have to, the ethics committees have to have to be constituted in accordance with the ICMR guidelines and function according to them. And one important thing is that it applies to all biomedical, social, and behavioral science research conducted in India involving human participation in the biological material or data. Now, you might remember this registration, and they issued a rule in 2018. And this, you have to register with the naitik.gov.in. And it is now mandatory to register with effect from 15/9/2019, 6 months after they issued the regulation, the law. Now, a new drug, we know all this, we know this definition, so I don't want to spend time on this. What is important is that along with that new drug, totally new drug, any drug that is approved by the CLA, licensing authority, but proposed to be marketed or with the modified or new claims, including indication, route of action. You remember the academic clinical trial definition? That is for academic trial, when you're not going to use it for commercial purposes. But if you want to market it with a new dose, new drug, new indication, etc., then you will have to apply to them or do a clinical trial accordingly. A fixed dose combination of 2 or more drugs also is considered to be a new drug. It will have to go to CDSCO now. And the modified or sustained release form, a novel drug delivery system is also of any drug which is approved is also a new drug. A vaccine, recombinant DNA derived product, living modified organism, monoclonal antibody, stem cell derived product, gene therapeutic product, or xenografts intended to be used as a drug is also a new drug. Now, these drugs from 1 to 3 remain 1 to 3. Let me just remind you. 1 to 3. 1 is a new chemical entity as we know it. The second is for new indications or dose, etc. And 3 is a fixed dose combination. 4, let me remind you, is a modified or sustained release form, a modified drug delivery system. And 5 is a vaccine or recombinant DNA, etc. Now, so 1 to 3 remains a new drug for a period of 4 years, while the drugs in 4 and 5, that means vaccines, for example, are always considered new drugs. So remember, if you want to do a trial with a vaccine, however old it is, you may still have to go to the DCGI and take approval because it continues to remain a new drug. This is what I understand. Now, if a drug is discovered in India or the research and development is being done in India and the drug is proposed to be manufactured in India, they can apply for approval, and within 30 days, the DCGI has to get back. If no communication is received, then deemed approval can be taken. If deemed approval is considered, then the applicant must inform the CLA in a particular form, and approval is considered automatic. Drugs approved outside of India, 90 working days are given for the DCGI to respond, but no automatic approval. They'll have to apply again, or they generally come back. So I believe that a lot of this NDCT rule has hastened the process of approval, and a lot has changed because of that. Now, what is important, I think, is this: independent ethics committees can also oversee new drugs. You remember there was a time in between when independent committees were totally banned. But what is important is that they have to be within a radius of 50 kilometers. This is something that they have decided. So I can't, for example, as an independent ethics committee member, approve a trial which is being done in Delhi. It has to be 50 kilometers out. Only then I can approve it. If the ethics committee rejects a protocol, then they should inform the CLA, and prior to seeking approval of another ethics committee, this is the sponsor should inform the CLA before taking approval of an ethics committee. So this is to prevent ethics committee shopping. After approval from an ethics committee, the CLA has to be informed again, and enrollment status has to be uploaded quarterly basis as per the duration of the trial, whichever is earlier. And registration with CTRI is most mandatory. They have defined post-trial access, and they have said that making a new drug or investigational new drugs available to a trial subject after completion of a clinical trial, through which the said drug, which has been found beneficial to the trial subject during the clinical trial for such period as considered necessary by the investigator and ethics committee. But the condition is that no alternative therapy is available. That means if there is a standard of care available for that condition at that stage, then you should give that, not give this new investigational drug which has not been proven beneficial. I have seen cases when I was an ethics committee member in Tata Hospital, where these drugs have later on proven not to be effective. And yet, because that particular patient benefited, it was still offered and given as post-trial access. But what is most important is that the person has to consent to use the post-trial access of the drug, and the investigator should certify that in writing that the sponsor has no liability for post-trial use of the investigational new drug. No liability rests on the sponsor. I will not spend time on compensation because it's the same thing. There's no change. The patient details, earlier it was in appendix 11 in schedule Y. Now it is in table 5. All the details have to be given. No change has occurred, except that in the timelines, sponsor and investigator have to submit a due analysis within 14 days of knowledge of occurrence instead of the occurrence of the essay. Remember, even for biomedical and health research, you have to do these compensation as per the ethical guideline, the ICMR ethical guideline. And they have said very clearly that quantum of compensation has to be awarded to the participant. EC should consider type of research, temporary or type of injury, and loss of wages. This is my last slide. Frequently asked questions is also put up by the CDESCO in this website, so you can have a look at it. I would like to thank Padmaja Marate, Shruti Bhide, and Parvan Shetty for some of the material that I used. Thank you very much. I think I've covered this in the given time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Urmila ma'am, for an excellent session and taking us. I know it's a vast topic in terms of new clinical trial rules. So thank you so much for covering it so well, ma'am. Thank you so much for that. There are a few questions in the chat box that we've received. One question is in terms of, you've mentioned new drug. So if at all a drug that is already approved comes with a new indication, will it still be considered as a new drug?
Yeah, it is considered as a new drug. I defined it, no?
Yes.
If it's a new indication, it is defined as a new drug. But if you want to do it as an academic clinical trial, you can do it where the investigator initiated trial it is, which does not include where they cannot use it for the company, if there's any company sponsoring it, cannot use it for any commercial purposes, even abroad, anywhere else also.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that guidance, ma'am. Ma'am, the next question is, you did mention during your talk that the ethics committee should be within the 50 kilometers or within that radius of where the site is. Is this applicable for all sites within India, or because there are a lot of trials that come up with different sites in India? So can one ethics committee be used for all, or it has to be different?
No, they have to be local ethics committees. Now, ICMR has recommended multicentric ethics committees to pool together and make it one main ethics committee, and one main ethics committee can approve for the initial review. But the ongoing review will have to be done by the local ethics committees, as well as the translations of the consent forms have to be done by local ethics committees. So local ethics committees cannot be done away with.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that. There have been questions, since there's a lot of digital health and real world evidences coming up. Wanted to check with you, are there any new clinical trial rules that comes with digital health?
No, I don't think. I didn't read. I couldn't find anything about it.
Okay, ma'am.
I may be unaware though.
Sure.
Maybe if either Viraj or Dr. Kukreja, if you all could add something to this.
No, ma'am, absolutely right. Actually, what you just mentioned is correct, actually, that there's no specific mention of the digital consent. And you are absolutely right that with the ethics committee, approval has to be from the local ethics committee, and that they have defined, because some institute may not have the ethics committee. So any ethics committee which is locally based, but within 50 kilometers has to approve.
Yeah, that is if it's for, I mean, I think that is mainly for independent ethics committees, because independent ethics committees would be approving all sorts of sites. Institutional ethics committees are within the institution, so that question doesn't come up. You don't usually approve for other institutions. So, but that may also occur, but it has to be within 50 kilometers. That is as per the law now.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. There is another question. Is preclinical research study belongs to as a part of biomedical and health research?
Not preclinical.
Not
preclinical will go to animal ethics committee.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Next question is by Sudhir Prithvi, who's asking, is vaccine a drug? Is it covered under drug definition?
Yes. Yes, it is. Didn't you see my definition? I gave that definition also. It is considered it is considered a new drug for life.
Question again. If a preclinical study are done in one country, can we resume phase 1 in other countries based on those evidences?
No, I didn't. Can you repeat this question?
Yeah. So the question is, if a preclinical studies are done in one country, can we resume the same phase 1 after preclinical in other countries?
I think every country has different rules for phase 1. In India, you cannot do a phase 1 study unless the drug is manufactured or made in India, discovered and made in India. Only then you can do. Other phases of trials you can do consecutively, parallelly. Like if there is phase 2 going on elsewhere, you can do a phase 2 here. But a phase 1 study you can't do unless it is done in the country of origin or wherever else. But you can't. But other countries, I think you can do. For example, many of our companies go to outside countries like Australia or I think UK to do phase 1 studies, even USA.
Okay, so it means that in India, if the preclinical studies are done somewhere else, we cannot go ahead with phase 1.
No, they don't give approval.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that guidance.
I think that is coming from the feeling that we should not be used as guinea pigs.
Okay, got it. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for that. There's next question by Sanyata Thakur. Generally, for how long is an investigational drug be given as a part of post-trial access?
No, that depends on the investigator.
Okay.
It'll depend upon the condition also, and it'll depend on the investigator and the company who will continue to give it. Because remember, this is an investigational drug, so it has not been proven to be effective. So if you also should, I mean, as an ethics committee also, we think carefully about that. So maybe for 6 months or 1 year or something, you can recommend. But after that, the patient should, if there is no other treatment, remember, if there is no other treatment, then only you will want to try this investigational new drug. Otherwise, you don't want to try. You want to go to the standard of care.
Correct. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for that. This next question by Dr. Harish Bansal, who's asking, academic clinical trial will consider under which ethics committee?
The regulatory, this apna drugs controller registered ethics committee, better. Why? Because it's not because it's commercial, but because in case they feel that it needs to go to DCGI, then they will have to be registered with DCGI for them to talk to each other. Otherwise, they may not consider the discussion. But otherwise, in general, academic clinical trial can be approved by either of the committees.
Oh,
but I would recommend that the one registered with CIDESCO should do it, because that's what we do in our ethics committee. We have 3 ethics committees in KEM. One, IEC 1 is registered with DCGI, and IEC 2 and 3 are registered with ICMR, so with Ministry of Health. So the IEC 1 approve or looks at or reviews the academic clinical trials also.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think we are done with the questions for your session, ma'am.
Okay,
you're welcome for the faculty interaction at 4:30. So kindly join us that time as well. Thank you so much for being with us.
4:30 it is it?
Yes,
4:30?
Yes,
okay. I'll join at that time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your excellent session, as well as being so interactive during the questions and answer session as well. So
it's within the time. I was very worried that I wouldn't be within time. I was really worried because it's a long talk actually. And I argued with Sandhya. I said, I can't do it in half an hour. She said, not half an hour, you have only 20 minutes. I was a little worried, but we do have time. We still have time, in fact.
Yes, ma'am. I think there's one question that's come. So if we can quickly take that question as well.
What is that question?
The question is, ma'am, does nutraceutical drugs require CIDESCO approval?
Good question. No, I don't think so. I don't think they are considered as drugs. But if it is nutraceutical drug, I don't know. I don't know if there is an indication, and if it's going to be sold with an indication for a particular disease, then it will go to CIDESCO.
Okay.
Claim.
Yes, they are specifically mentioning nutraceutical drugs.
So the nutraceuticals fall under the food safety committee. You know, the IFFSH, I think it's called. So I don't know the name of that organization. That's also in Delhi, but that's the one that looks after the food. But it won't normally fall under CIDESCO. But if it is going to be sold as a drug, or if they want to develop it as a drug, then it will have to go.
Sure.
Like vitamins, etc., will go into this CIDESCO.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, since the discussion about serious adverse events, as it was similar to the old one, there has been one question on that regards. With regards to serious adverse events in academic clinical trials, how should the SAE reporting be done?
It should be done in the same way. It should be done only to ethics committees. You don't have to report it to CDSCO, I think, because they are not regulatory trials, so they don't really go. The ethics committee just informs, and if the CDSCO has any objections to that trial, then they will reply back within 30 days. But otherwise, they don't get involved in the trial, because it's an academic clinical trial done only for the purpose of academics and for improving academics, for understanding of the patient, or some kind of a head-to-head trial which no company is interested in. That sort of a trial is often done in academics. So it doesn't go on the Sugam portal, but what you will have to report it to your ethics committee and the sponsor, if there is a sponsor.
Sure.
There never is a sponsor usually in this thing. Some funder will be there. Somebody who will fund you. Some company may fund you if it is their drug, but they will not sponsor you as a sponsor, because they will not be involved, and they cannot take a MOU has to be looked at very carefully. The ethics committee also has to do that. And that's where this overlap can occur, because sometimes you have to be very careful that you don't give away the data to the company.
Correct. Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe Apeksha, just
Yes.
one comment from Madam, Ma'am, Dr. Anil Kukrija here.
Yeah.
So can the overlap between the academic trial and the regulatory trial will be if the academic institute is studying the additional indication or additional use, which is defined as a new drug by the CDSCO as per the regulation?
Yeah. That is the academic trial.
Yeah. So could that be considered as overlap between academic and
No.
regulatory?
That is the definition of an academic clinical trial. When the investigator is doing it as a new indication, for it all emerged from Tata Hospital, because Tata Hospital is doing a lot of these studies, or not studies actually. They are doing, they are giving the old drugs. For example, propranolol in some hemangiomas. Then some drugs which are marketed for something, but for something else they want to use it. So these are the types of indications where they were trying these, they were using these in patients because part of use. And when they wanted to do the trials, the ethics committee would send the proposal to DCGI and they would get delayed. So therefore, this new concept of academic clinical trial came up, where the investigator is doing it purely for academic purposes, not with the purpose of only publishing and not marketing the drug.
Got it, ma'am. Thank you.
So it is, the definition itself includes this new indication, new dose, new route of administration, etc.
Got it. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure being here. And I'm so happy people have asked questions, because it's only then you realize that nobody slept.
Yeah, ma'am, and during
slept.
faculty interaction, you will actually have a feeling of face-to-face interaction. So
Yeah.
we look forward to your presence there also.
I'll try at
Yeah.
4:30, no?
4:30, yes.
Okay, I'll try if you keep to time.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Okay,
much,
bye
ma'am.
then. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for not just the presentation, but again, staying over for the question answer sessions and extending the question answer session as well. So thank you
My
so much.
pleasure.
We are on time now. So now
My pleasure. And let me just thank Padmaja and
Thank you,
Sandhya
madam.
for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be with your department always, as you know.
It was
Thank
great listening to you, madam. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you once again, ma'am. So now let's go to the next session. Our next speaker is Dr. Luko, who's Asia Area Medical Director, AstraZeneca. He's from Taiwan, psychiatrist by profession. He joined the industry in 2008 and has a rich experience of working in various MNCs, including Novartis, MSD, as well as J&J. Luke, over to you to take us through how a life of field medical colleague looks like in the industry. Over to you.
Thank you, Apeksha. So
Thank
can you just check, right? Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you, see you, as well as your slide is uploaded.
Okay, cool. Thank you, right? So again, it's really a pleasure to be able to be here, right? And then talk to, I guess, colleagues and friends, and then also probably newcomers to the industry, because from India and even more. And again, right, I just listened to the previous discussions regarding clinical trials, development, and all these interactions was so exciting. And then I will try to be as excited as we have for the previous sections, right? And I guess the beauty for field medical as the topic here is really, we have discussed a lot of this new researches, clinical trials, new inventions. But then if we are talking about patients, then the key is really how we can translate all these amazing innovations into clinical practice. And that's really the value for field medical, saying even bigger for medical, working for pharmaceutical companies can really bring to patients. So may I have the next slide, please? So I guess what I will try to go over in my, I guess, only 20 minutes, right? Originally I thought it would be 30 minutes. We'll give you a bit ideas how the field medical, I will give a bit more explanations later, but how the field medical will look like when you are, performing these jobs, and what will be also the the career and the interactions and also the value that field medical be able to do. And then before going through this, right, I know, Apesha, thanks for your kind introduction that, yeah. So I have been in the industry for 14, 15 years already. And then originally from Taiwan, I was a physician similar to many of you here. And I actually was a psychiatrist by training. And then moving from the clinical practice to pharma, actually it's, I would say, quite in the culture in Taiwan, right? Or in this part of Asia, Taiwan, Korea, it's a bit not that usual. But then for this 14, 15 years, I would say it's quite rewarding, right? It's not really about career development or package or so, right? It's more actually the reach that I will be able to talk to interact to different culture, different people globally. And then as Apesha kindly introduced already, right? So actually I've been working for 4 MNCs already, and then spend actually most of my time in Novartis, which is also a good, I guess, a good company, as good as AstraZeneca, right? And then I also work for global and regional roles in Novartis for 6 years. So if you can see the, I guess the photo there, right? So I spent also several years in the headquarters of Novartis, which actually is in Basel, Switzerland. It's a super nice city, a bit too peaceful, but then I also have actually a lot of friends from India also, I guess, working together in Basel. And then in my 6 years above country, I was experience in Novartis. I believe also 3 or 3.5 years I'm working for global, we call field medical excellence. It's actually the leading the field medical role in Novartis in globally. So I guess we'll be able to share a bit experiences, not only from the global perspective, but then also how real field life look like. And I'm currently the Asia Area Medical Director for AstraZeneca. So as I said earlier, right, I will try to give you a bit flavor of AstraZeneca, I guess, for the second part of my sharing, just show a bit future for field medical. So may I have the next slide, please? Right, so yeah, as I show in the very beginning, right, we have innovative and all this amazing science, I mean, clinical research, all these inventions. And we also know that there are also commercial functions. I mean, sales teams, marketers, they are trying to sell the product, right? Interact with physicians, try to convince physicians that you should prescribe these drugs or products to your patients. Then what's the value for medical? Actually, I would say, right, I mean, of course, I'm a bit biased, but in medical, it's really the crucial functions. Actually, if you ask me, right, it will be even more important than both clinical research or development and also for commercial. The reason is not that they are not important, right? But the reason is that pharmaceutical, right, or saying clinical practice or medicine, it's quite different, right, from other industry, because we are here, right? I mean, the value for having this industry is really to improving the life, the outcome of patients and their families. So it's not that straightforward saying, oh, then we have a good product, then we put a good advertisement in the TV, right? Then I mean, population of patients can use the product directly, right? No. So we need to have, I guess, a group of people who is super, I guess, scientifically sound, and then also with strong communication skills, and then can work with clinical development teams to run clinical trials, help them to execute all these important elements to run the trials. But we also need to have a group of people be able to talk to top experts in the field to understand what are the real patient needs. And also we need to have a strong group of people can really help our commercial colleagues or even to physicians to really identify who or which target population will be beneficial from the product or from the drugs, right? And last but not least, right, we still also need to have a strong group of people who be able to decide what will be the value of not only the drugs, right, but what will be the value of a package of treatment, be able to work together with physicians and really to improve patients' outcome. So as I try to summarize the value of medical here, right, it's really the key that be able to, I guess, more like play the role to connect, right? And then to bridge all different functions together and really be able to make our products or drugs be able to bring value to patients and to physicians. So that's the value of medical affairs. And then if you got a chance to talk to colleagues or people from different, companies, then you will see a really a booming, right, of hiring, I guess, high capable medical people into the industry. And then for the past 5-10 years, and then we still see a strong trend to increasing hiring and then having more and more capable medical people here. So, but then there are two, can I have the next slide, please? There are two, I would say, most important functions in medical. And then roughly we try to divide them into two. One we call field medical. So there are quite many different, terminologies be used, right? Like medical scientific liaison, which is also quite common, I know. And also we also have clinical scientific liaison or regional field-based medical advisor also, right? But long story short, field medical is actually, again, right, capable, very scientific-driven person, then spend most of his or her time in the field to interact with top experts, to understand the insights, to discuss science, and also to work with these experts, try to find opportunities to improve patients' outcome. So let's field medical. They are field-based, right? They might spend, I guess, 60, 70, 80% of their time in top hospitals, in academia centers, and then still spend 30 to 40% of their time still go back to headquarters office. Can I have my next slide, please? There's another function. It's more like we call medical advisors or strategic medical affairs role. So this second group of people, they spend only 20 to 40% of their time still visiting experts, but they spend a bit more time sitting in the office and then to dealing with, paperwork, discussing for the business strategy, medical priorities, and so, right? So it's not really which role or which function is more senior or more junior, right? It's really, as you can see, right, the life is different, right? If you prefer to spend most of your time outside to connect to different people, then might be field medical will be a bit better fit. But then if you really enjoy sitting in the office and then discussing, right, and try to make Excel sheets, presentations, then strategic medical affairs role will be a better fit, right? So let's, I guess, roughly two different functions that we usually have in different, pharmaceutical companies. May I have my next slide, please? And then just allow me to go a bit deeper what field medical as the topic that they are doing, right? And then before I go to details, right, I still need to strengthen, right? There are actually two key elements, whatever we are doing from field medical or from medical that, strategic medical need to consider, at least in AstraZeneca, right? There are two. One is science, right? It's all about the value of science, how we can bring the value of science to patients. And then can I have the next slide, please? So again, right, the logo, right, or the key belief, I'm quite sure Anil will also agree with me on this. In AstraZeneca, it's really, we follow the science, right? We don't really discuss or try to find a way, cosmetic way to package things which are not science, right? That's not really the belief we have for AstraZeneca, for medical. So if we look at the external environment, right? Field medical, our key target, or let's say our key interactive stakeholders are, we call medical experts. And medical experts are, excuse me, are the experts which are on the therapeutic area expertise and usually have huge influencing powers in the medical societies, probably because of huge or enormous publications or experiences of clinical trials, or they play a bigger roles in medical educations, policy shapings, guidelines in the selected medical societies for, let's say, for India or even globally, right? So that's the key, or let's say the primary target audience for field medical. And then there are also other elements, right? We also have our field medical people might also need to meet physicians, payers, policymakers, researchers, but this might, I would say, a bit less frequently, because then the top, I guess the key elements for field medical is really to interact with medical experts. And then with the collaborations with medical experts, then we try to influence providing education to other physicians and so on. Right? So I guess that's the ideal way that MSL, right, be able to interact with medical experts one-on-one, and then or even do a presentation discussions and try to push the influential powers into more broader group, right? So that's the life, I would say, a field medical people can be in daily life. So can I have the next slide, please? Yeah, next one. And then what we are doing really in the field, right? There are many things, as I said already. Scientific exchange, so discussing science, not only for a product or compounds, but it's really generally how to treat the patient better. What is the most updated science, not only for let's say for AstraZeneca compound, but also for all other compounds that be able to help physicians to treat their patients better. And then the second thing will be super important. It's really to gather insights, because these medical experts really know much more than all of us in the company. So we need to get their ideas, their thoughts about our strategy, how our drugs or how patients can be treated better. So that's the second piece, which is super important. And then we also collaborate with clinical research teams to enabling data generation activities, which we discussed a lot already for the last section, to answer medical inquiries. And then last, but then I would say super important now is really to establish partnerships with these experts for better patients' outcome. And really the key is really the center, right? The idea is really to become the most trusted partner, or let's say the peer. So we will be really like a peer-to-peer discussions with these top experts, professors, superintendents, because we also know the science. We are standing for the science of AstraZeneca, or let's say for a company. But this is not the only thing that the field medical is doing, right? Can I have the next slide, please? They also need to work with a huge team, right? And then even within medical, they are medical advisors, patient safety, medical information, clinical research, medical review, a huge team, right? But in addition to this, right, the field medical also need to, I guess, interact with sales, marketing, market access, regulatory, research, government affairs, or even above country teams. So the job is quite dynamic, right? You have a lot of your time working in the field, interacting with experts for science, for other things, but you also need to really face quite many, good opportunities to achieve better outcomes, but then at the same time, also a lot of challenges, as you can feel, right? Different functions, they might have their own wish list that would like to have field medical, because actually field medical is the most powerful, I guess, scientific phase that we have in the, I guess, in facing all these physicians. So the key really, as I said earlier, right, the first element for our belief is we always follow the science, right? Let the science talk. But then the second key here is we put patients first. So when interacting with internal colleagues, then we are really be there representing patients' voice, right? Physicians' needs. So I guess these two are complementing quite well for the other one. Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah, so I think I covered this already. Can I have the next slide, please? So just an interesting one, right? This actually was a survey done by, a bit other companies, right? And then saying that what will be the good, not that preferable experience to someone we call field medical. Actually, there are only two things, right? If you go to the right-hand side, right, as you allow me to read for you, it's a big turn of when an MSL, right, favors their own product. I expect that from a rep, not an MSL. So that's the key, right? So MSL expectations to MSL is really to discuss science, but not really only there to defend your product or saying good things for your product, but not others. So that's a big part, as you can feel the value for medical. And if we go to the left-hand side, right, spoke without answering questions or listening. So this is about skills, right? So as I said earlier, insight gathering is also a key for field medical. So we are believing that the field medical will need to be peers to experts, have a fair discussions, and not only talking and promoting, which is actually not a role for a field medical. So I guess I summarized quite thoroughly for field medical. And allow me also to just spend a bit, 2-3 more minutes to give you a bit flavor from AstraZeneca. Can I have the next slide, please? So even though with all of this, right, I'm quite sure field medical now with COVID, everything is actually evolving. So can I have the next slide, please? Next slide. Yeah, I guess we all know, right? COVID and even digitalization, growing, aging, all things are evolving nowadays. And then we believe also the role field medical can play is even a bit different, right? So go to the next slide, please. So this is more like our belief, right, within AstraZeneca, that we believe actually not only medical, right, the whole company will need to transform a little bit, not from the traditional pure company to a bit platform company. And it's not really rocket science, right? I guess the idea is who or what solutions can really help patients, right? Single pill without, screening, treatments, following, we don't believe this work for long, right? And so I guess the idea here, at least from AstraZeneca, is really, especially for medical function, we need to work together with physicians, with stakeholders, with experts, try to provide, actually not provide, right? Try to partner with them to be able to give a solution that be able really to improve patients' outcomes, because we know real patients are not patients in clinical trials. Not everything are well organized and controlled. In real life, there are a lot of challenges, and that's also one of the responsibilities now we have together with experts to achieve this. So maybe I can have the next slide. So I think that's a bit more from AstraZeneca Asia medical perspective, what we would like to achieve, and field medical will be the key on this. Now, one is we need to really to translate science and then into what patients really need and what will be the solutions we be able to work together, right? I would say this is the key, and then we believe MSLs or field medical will be the best, I would say the most important parties on this, because field medical, they interact with experts every day. They know the needs, they be able to discuss solutions and try to really find out the best ways to help patients. And if we go to the bottom side, right? Traditionally, we all call stakeholders, right? Customers. But I guess in the long run, right? Now we really need to turn them to work with us, become our partners. I'm talking about experts, medical experts, but even policymakers, reimbursement authorities, or even we have also quite a lot of different partners, including startup companies, even insurance companies, because we really need to work together. Then we'll be able to find better way to help patients and also even more affordable, solutions, right? So I guess that's a bit flavors from AstraZeneca. And then in the end, we really hope that we can deliver value beyond illness by establishing full integrated patient-centric ecosystem through partnership. And then last one, right? I guess we have quite many colleagues from India here, right? I think the last piece, right? In addition to science and patients, in AstraZeneca really be an entrepreneur, right? So and field medical actually is really our front line to achieve this. So I guess that's all what I have, right? I'm sorry to be a bit rushed, right? But I hope that also give a bit some sense of what field medical be really look like, and also a bit more flavors from what AstraZeneca views on field medical. So I guess I will pause here and then to see if any questions or discussions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Luke, especially this particular topic, since most of the postgraduate students, when they join a pharmaceutical industry in medical affairs, join as a field medical colleague, this particular session really helps them to know what are their roles and responsibilities. So thank you so much for taking us through that entire part. So there are a few questions that's come up in the chat box. So the first question is, do especially freshers, if they join as a field medical colleague, are they aware or are they having any roles in brand planning or strategy?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? I would say yes, right? As I actually share a little bit in my not really presentation, my sharing, right? So the brand planning traditional way is, oh, that's a global template, right? And we put everything into that, right? And then we work on our patient journey and what's the global plan, what's the local plan. But we all know, right? This won't work, or this might work for one country, but then not for all, right? So the current, at least AstraZeneca way is really, we need to get insights. We need to have learnings from last year and also insights from the field, insights from experts, even do, I guess, market research advisory board also, right? So as you can see, the field insights collected by medical will be the crucial part to have a strong brand plan. That's one part. And then the second piece, even for, I guess, really new MSLs, I'm quite sure even in India, you have a huge organization. It's really, you need to, as I said, right, you need to be an entrepreneur, right? So you need to have your own ideas. We know the issues, we know the gaps, then what will be the potential solutions? Who are the partners we be able to find solutions on this? So these two parts, I guess, really be the value that even a new MSL be able to bring to the brand plan also, right? I know we have a following up sections to discuss this, but allow me to just still to say certain things, right? Even though you might think, oh, then that's really great, right? But then the reality is two, right? One is you need to choose a good company to join, right? I'm sorry to say this, but then if the company really allow people to speak up, to contribute their innovations, then it's not really your title, your seniorities, right? Then they will all respect your ideas if we can make this happen. And you can feel a lot actually in AstraZeneca because most of the most, I guess, amazing ideas actually are from MSLs, at least in Asia, right? So that's one. And then the second thing is you also cannot be too shy, right? So if you just want to do whatever your manager want you to do, after 1-2 years, then you say, oh, I don't have a good opportunities to speak up also. But then I would say no, right? At least for MMCs, then they are not too much bureaucratic or let's say hierarchies, right? If you have good ideas, try to speak up, and then to make this happen, I'm quite sure then be able to really to make this a huge impact to patients.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Lok. The next question is in terms of insights. I know you did cover up during the first session itself, but there's a question that how will insights help? What is the role of insights during our discussions?
Yeah, this will be, I guess we need to have like 2 hours to discuss this, right? But just a simple one, right? So for example, I give you a simple example. There are many, right? About clinical trials, brand strategy, as you just discussed. Give you a simple example, right? So when in my role not really in Taiwan, right? But then when I was in Novartis in global, then one colleague in Taiwan identified, they are talking about a bit rheumatology diseases, right? And they identify that, oh, most of the physicians or experts, they are using a score, right? A bit rating score to measure how severe the rheumatology and symptoms are about, right? And then the score was just not too sensitive. So even the patients are still suffering a lot, but then, they are still keeping the same, treatment ways that they have been there for years, right? And even though they are so suffering, right? And because physicians, they are not going to do any, quality of life scoring also, right? So that's the insights that one MSL actually collected from the field, right? And then bring these discussions to the country team. And actually, the country team start to roll out a practice to have a more, still a validation rate, but then it's more sensitive measurements to measure the symptoms of the disease, right? And then you can see a huge behavior changes and also the outcome changes of patients then push this to global, right? It's originally a best practices, but later on a bit of regional initiative and globally, right? So even the small insights, as you can see, really be able to bring huge impact, not only to the company, I would say strategy or directions, but to patients, right? Yeah. Hopefully I answered the question.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Luke. There's one question, as AstraZeneca, we put patients first. There's one question based on that itself. How does a field medical advisor engage with patients? Is it through listening or engaging with patient advocacy groups or representatives? Your view on that?
Yeah, so both, right? Or actually even more than this, right? And then there's increasing, I guess, increasing a bit trend, right? To have more interactions with patients. And then you mentioned this all clearly, right? You can go through this through physicians, they're treating physicians, through patient groups, or we also run patient advisory boards. Even we have patient focus groups. And even now we are doing a bit social listening, right? To try to get what patients are really discussing in social media and so, right? And then I would say even further, right? Now we try to incorporate, a bit patient advice into clinical trials, right? So I think the way it's evolving, right? And I know that traditionally we believe we are here, right? Physicians are here to help patients achieve better outcomes. But now patient feelings, their experiences, I guess, are also important. So there are more and more ways, I guess, to get patients' ideas and insights. And the medical, as you can see, right? It's not, I would say it's the best party to drive this, right? Because we don't have any commercial a bit biases on this. We really want to hear, to get insights and to drive this.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Luke. There's last one questions, and the next questions, we'll take it during the faculty live interaction session. There's one question says majority of the time, often MSL goes with interacting with KOLs. So is there an agenda that has to be, that is being prepared that has to be discussed with the KOL, or what are the things that has to be discussed during the KOL interaction that we see?
Right. So that's a really good question, right? I would say yes and no. So you need to have an agenda, right? You need to know what you are going to discuss, because these KEs, we call KEs, are super, I would say, authority people, right? They don't want to waste their time to talk to something which are not important at all, right? So that's one element. But if you are a super experienced MSLs and you know everything, right? You know the expert, then usually the dialogue won't follow your proposed agenda, right? So I have a lot of experiences, and then one experience is when I visit Australia, then the top MSL actually took me to visit the president of their, can I remember which medical society, and he only spent, I guess, 5 minutes talking about his topic. Then the expert consult him of a paper the expert want to publish, right, for a bit social metrics also, right? So we spend, I guess, an hour, right, discussing science, but not really the original topic. But then I would say the physician really, or the expert really view our MSL as his peer, right, or her peer, actually her peer, to discuss science and to improve patients' outcome, and also to improve science, right, because that's also for publications. So I would say yes, right, you need to have an agenda. You really need to know what you want to talk. But when you also need to respect the flow, right? And then I guess that's, yeah. But that's also the beauty for life in field, right?
Sure. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Luke, for taking us through the entire part of what or how the life of a field medical colleague looks like. Thank you so much. You're welcome to join us during the faculty interaction session as well, which is from 4:30 to 5:15 Indian Standard Time.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Luke, and
thank you
for answering the questions.
Thank you, my pleasure.
So during Dr. Luke's discussions, we saw some topics of how the cross-functional teams looks like. So now Dr. Viraj will say, how can we move from one function to the other? Let the top talent move around the company. That's his topic. I'll not waste time and directly give it to Dr. Viraj, since I've already introduced him. Dr. Viraj, over to you to just discuss on let your top talent move around your company.
Thank you, Apeksha. And once again, thank you to the India team for inviting me to talk here. When Apeksha and Amit shared the topic with me, I said I was in two dilemmas. Number one, this is not a standard topic. I said, can I talk on protocol, statistics, evidence-based medicine? Because we have hundreds of slides and I can pick up. When I looked at the agenda, there was another dilemma. My teacher, Dr. Urmila Thatte, was going to talk before me, and Madam is such a prolific speaker as she spoke on the topics of ethics today, that it is, of course, very difficult to talk after her. But I will do my best on today's presentation. Can I share slides from my end, or is it from your end?
If you can share it on screen.
Okay, so let me share the slides from my end. Let me know if you can see it.
Yes.
Yeah, you can see it, right? Okay.
So right now it's a blank screen, if that's what you're sharing.
No, I'm sharing a slide actually.
No.
You are not getting my slide?
No, sir.
Okay, 1 minute. Yeah, I will do 1 minute. Can you see it now?
Not yet.
Yeah, I think so, because what is the problem? I don't understand. Let me try the last time.
Yes, perfect. Because it's a whiteboard that's being shown.
Yeah.
So if I think you're sharing the whiteboard by...
1 minute, let me just...
If you can just click onto that PPT, I think the PPT might be.
Okay. Maybe you share it from your side. That's no problem.
If you could just share the screen.
Yeah. Good. Thank you so much. And you would have understood that my IT skills are not up to the mark. And that is why it is very important for us to do that. My topic today is move your talent across. I stand here not only representing AstraZeneca as the area medical director, but as a very proud Gosumic. And I'm thankful to all the wonderful teachings that we all had under the leadership of Dr. Shardini Dahanukar, our revered teacher, many years back. And I'm sure that Dr. Sandhya and Dr. Padmaja would always relish those memories many years back. This is, of course, in our Luton office in the UK. We have set up a very big R&D center in Cambridge, where we are encouraging new talents of tomorrow, to come and work and partner with us. And I'm sure that at some stage, some of you will get that opportunity to work with AstraZeneca in various roles. Next, please. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Sorry. How do I do that? Next. Yeah. Okay. Good. Further to what Dr. Luke just shared with us, where does our journey start in the pharmaceutical industry? For many of us, it starts in medical affairs, as field medical scientific liaisons, or as regional medical advisors, as the designations or the roles could be. Some of you will start in clinical research, starting as a clinical research associate responsible for monitoring, or you might get into more specialized work, such as pharmacovigilance and safety. Some of you might continue to work in clinical pharmacology and therapeutics as a study coordinator with various clinical departments, or sometimes even as a co-investigator. And this is one role which has been highly underutilized in our countries, while abroad, a lot of residents of pharmacology, clinical pharmacology, eventually get into clinical studies. They partner with the clinicians on conducting clinical trials in academic centers. And some of you might join specialized functions such as regulatory, or maybe some of you would do you will go to IIM, you will do the management studies from some universities and get into brand management. But most of us generally join medical affairs followed by clinical research. Now, I want to prove to you in the next 20 minutes that this historic one-way journey, which you might be thinking in your mind, that you start as a medical advisor in India, move as a head of a therapy area, maybe diabetes, cardiovascular medicine, respiratory, anti-infectives, then become medical director in the country. After some time, move to Asia, become the therapy area director in some of the therapy areas, eventually become the regional medical lead, and then finally move to global as a global team, and then rest there for the rest of your life. And this historic one-way journey, unfortunately, is now extinct, and it does not exist, as has been proven by several examples. And I will share with you why that thought has been there. When you talk about talents in pharmaceutical medicine, I think we have to clearly remember that the talents in pharmaceutical medicine need to have various aspects. Your basic understanding of science and of healthcare is most important. And how do you add expertise? You are a clinician first. You are a clinician with a pharmacological background in the industry, and you have to go with that very clear approach. How do you then leverage that science to lead business? Medical affairs is no longer a support function in any way. How can you lead business? How can you change the perspective of the organization is something that you should be doing in pharmaceutical medicine. How effectively are you communicating internally and externally? Written communication, oral communication, your presence in the social media, your presence in the external world distinguishes you from others. As part of leadership in the world of pharmaceutical medicine, you will develop next generation of talents. There were great leaders before us who developed us, and eventually we will also work with all of you to develop the next generation of leaders. And the highest gratitude for a leader is to see when people whom he has worked with in their early phases of life are extremely successful and have contributed to society and to the overall world. And while you do that, how do you shape the external world? How do you work with clinical societies in making healthcare more accessible, more available to patients? And these are the talents in pharmaceutical medicine which you should actually be aware of. It is a part of continuous learning, and it is also a part of your adaptation to the changing world. And these are some of the skills that you should be taking care of. What are the bricks of leadership? The bricks of leadership are mainly on three important parameters. The first parameter is related to knowledge. Knowledge is extremely important. We started today's program with Saraswati Vandana. Knowledge of your therapy area, knowledge of external science, how the world is moving. Diagnostics has totally changed. The way we look at a patient with cancer is totally different from what we were looking at some time back. The way we look at a patient of diabetes, our focus is not on reduction of blood glucose only. Our objective is to reduce cardiovascular outcomes, to improve his quality of life, to reduce renal outcomes. And this is how external science is shaping. Your knowledge of access to healthcare, this is very important. If you say, oh, I'm in medical function, access is not important. No, access is the most important thing, because access includes medical affairs, generating the best evidence, ensuring that diagnostics are available. If a patient is not diagnosed, there's no question of treatment. Ensuring that people have the right capabilities to diagnose patients, to ensure that optimum management of patients is provided is an important aspect of knowledge. But that is not everything. The next part of leadership is behavior. How can you influence? I was talking to somebody yesterday and he said, I want to move to a role where I currently have 5 people reporting to me, and I now there's a role which comes in front of me and I don't have anybody reporting to me. But that is the art of leadership. How you can influence people when they are not reporting to you. When they are reporting you, they better listen to you. So this art of influence is really very, very crucial and important. Somebody asked a question in the previous session of strategic thinking. This is really very important. But what is strategic thinking? Strategic thinking is thinking beyond what you can see today. If any of you go to Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, which is the most premier management institution in our country, there's a very nice passage which connects one building to the other. And there is a speech there at the time of inauguration in 1961 by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, in which he has said that the fruits of this institution would be available when none of us on the stage are going to be alive. And that is strategic thinking. You know, looking much beyond your own self and your own lifetime. Your behavior to collaborate. As clinicians, we are very good in clinical science. We partner, but at the same time, collaboration is really very important. You need to collaborate with commercial with market access, with government affairs, with HR, with manufacturing sometimes. And how do you do that? The next pillar of leadership is attitude. Looking beyond what you can see today. Having the we can attitude. Yes, there will be 100 challenges that will come in front of us, but how can we make things happen? And always improvising self. Taking every day, looking back at what you have learned on the previous day and how you are a better leader, a better person, a better individual, a better professional. And these are aspects of leadership. Now, when you move from one level to the other, we all start as individual contributors. We all start as MSLs. We are responsible for a particular geography, for a particular therapy area. Eventually, you will start leading a team of few people in a geography or in a therapy area or in a country. And then you will become a corporate leader. A corporate leader meaning managing a whole country, different therapy area, different people, or managing a region or managing the globe. And incidentally, if you look at the right side of my slide, you would realize that while knowledge is extremely crucial and important in all aspects, the role of knowledge in your success differs from the basic level to the corporate level. And at an individual level, it is more of a knowledge, some of skills and less of attitude. But as you start leading a team, it is more of skills, equally knowledge and attitude. And when it comes to being a corporate leader, it is more of an attitude. And knowledge and skills are important, but not the only way of success. It is important to imbibe those essential qualities of developing the right attitude. And when I move back to my topic, let us move the best talent across. This is the message that we need to move across, because we need to develop different skills, develop new attitudes, which you cannot if you are restricted to a particular role. Let us now understand what is happening in the external world. The time when some of us joined the industry is totally different from what you have today. If you thought that you have left your engineering colleagues aside and you hate engineering and you have joined medicine, you will be saddened, because the role of technology in healthcare and the way both these fields are intermingling and becoming integrated and one is phenomenal over the last few years. The advent of technology and the advent of health tech has really mesmerized us like never before. So the role of technology is really going to become very crucial. Home care. How many times in the last 10 years have any of us gone to the banks? Hardly. We all do iBanking, e-banking, whatever you call it as. And we have got much better financial services than what our parents and grandparents had. In the field of healthcare, home care is now becoming the norm. Patients go to the hospital for diagnosis, and after that, the follow-up, you don't go to the hospitals, you go to home care. There are digital x-rays which can be taken on smartphones. There are ways of home diagnostics which can be done. There are ways of teleconsultations, video consultations, and hence the visits to the hospitals and the clinics would reduce. And that would mean that more patients would be able to be treated in the right way. The role of social media on our life, we start our day with Facebook and end it with Google, or vice versa, as whatever you feel is appropriate. And the role of social media, the influence of social media on healthcare is becoming extremely important. And all of you will live in a world where patients would be treated at home. They would rely more on social digital experts than the doctor they see in the clinic, and they would have more access to technology than any of us had before. Are we ready for this world? Can we develop this world? Can we be the leaders in this world? Is the question that I have for all of you. The principles of lifelong learning are different. And when you say that we are moving our talents across the organization, we move them in two different ways. We move them in different functions, or we move them to different geographies. And let's try to understand what it is. When I say different functions, it means you start in medical affairs and then you move to clinical research, you move to regulatory, or you might move outside the world of pharmaceutical medicine into commercial, marketing, access, government affairs, public policy. And when you move into different functions, you need to focus on what new you can learn. You already are a well-established clinician, but what are the new skills that you are learning from each of these roles? What do you want to bring back to the role? Don't look at what the role is giving you, but also what you can give to this role and enrich yourself back. And do you learn new skills, which is extremely crucial when you're getting into different functions. All of us at some stage start moving into different geographies. And when you move into different geographies, it could be within the same country, it could be within the same region, or it could be across continents. Don't think that different geographies meaning always moving out of India. No. When I was discussing, and I think we have a session on one of these 4 days, and I did share with Apeksha and Amit that I do have very strong opinions on this, that we need to understand our country well. You need to work in all aspects. You move into semi-urban areas, work as an MSL in those areas, and then you start thinking about how you can move outside as well. But when you move to different geographies, what are the differences between developed and emerging countries? What are the skills that you learn from countries like UK, the US? And what are the skills that you learn from countries like China and India? Cultural understanding is extremely very important. 1 year back, I was talking to my 8-year-old daughter and I asked her, which language do you want to learn? She said, I want to learn French. I said, I have learned French, but I think you should learn Mandarin or Spanish. And she said, why? Because Spanish is not about Spain. It is about whole of Latin America and parts of US. And Mandarin is about China. And we will live in a world wherein US and China would be the 2 most important countries, followed by India. You know the Indian language already. Cultural understanding of how you will work with somebody based out of China, Japan, Europe is very important. It's a part of your lifelong learning. And then how do you develop as global leaders? Luke came to us. He has tremendous experience across Asia, across global, and he brings back those experiences in the Asia area function. And as you develop into global leaders, you need to understand, you need to learn from different cultures and from different geographies. How are their healthcare systems? What are the access challenges? How do you work with different type of people? Where do we move? Okay, now that you have taken a decision that you want to move across the organization, where do you move? So within the pharma medicine function, you can definitely move. You can move into medical affairs, clinical research, regulatory, pharmacovigilance, or clinical development. You could move outside the pharma function to marketing, sales, market access, public policy, which is important, digital health. This is a new function that we are setting up, or even training. Or you could move to the external world. You could move to regulatory authorities. This is strongly encouraged in the US, where people work with the FDA and then come back to the industry. With academics, with people in healthcare delivery, in hospitals, institutions. You could work with specialized diagnostic organizations, especially oncology and rheumatology. Or you could even start your own startup and bio ventures. And there are some examples of pharmaceutical physicians who have started their startups in India. So that this journey is now multi-destination. And this picture on the slide clearly shows that you start from India, you move to some other geography, you learn new skills, and then you come back to India in a different role, or you move to different geographies in a different role. So always consider every role is a part of a journey and not a destination. Don't say that, oh, now I have reached this geographical place. Oh, now I'm very happy. I will not move further. No. Don't fall in love with the role. Fall in love with the learning. This is very important. You learn new skills, you have new exposures, and you bring the experience back to enrich your new role. Wherever possible, you take new projects, take short-term assignments. Don't always look at permanent roles which are available. Your movements can be horizontal. We always feel we should have vertical movements. We should always be the boss. That is not always possible. Sometimes you need to move horizontal by learning new therapy areas, by learning new functions. Sometimes you move diagonal. You are a medical affairs person, you suddenly move as a clinical study manager or head of clinical operations at some stage if you have those skills. And the organizations would support you to help you in any of these roles. Let me quickly give you some practical tips which might help you. When do you move? You move when you have completed what you have started. Don't leave things in between. When you have proven competence and you have certain results to demonstrate, which would enrich your experience, not that you have completed 1 year or 2 years in a role and you say, oh, I've learned everything about it. No, it is not possible. Does the new role help you? Does it fill your gap on your CV? And does it make your CV more enriched? And these are things that you should learn. And most important, is it aligned to your overall plan in life? It may not be. It might be a great role for somebody, but it might not be what you want to do in life. Don't take it. There are many other things which would come in your way. Definitely when not to move too soon before you show results. Sometimes we meet a lot of very young pharmaceutical physicians working in India who say, oh, I've learned everything in India in 2 years. Well, Dr. Anil and I, we took 20 years to learn in India. We are not dull students in any way. But always don't move too soon, because you need to enrich your experiences and skills. Don't move for mere financial gain. Your value is far, far more than the paycheck that you receive. And don't move because everybody is doing it. Do it because you want to have. Very quickly, I will share 2 business cases with you, and then I will close down my presentation. And these are true cases. Of course, I cannot mention names of people here. But there was one colleague of ours who started as a medical advisor in India. Very good performer, did very good work. Then moved to marketing team as a brand manager. One of my bosses early in the industry used to say that marketing is too important a function to be left to marketing alone. And he really launched a new product with a strong scientific background because he was a medic. So he knew that. Then he moved to do a project work in a new geography in Asia Pacific, setting up a new therapy area in a new geography. And finally, not finally, but as part of his journey, came back in the home country as a medical director. So just understand the skills, the experiences that you get from different functions, and coming back as a medical director. He could have easily become medical director just by a vertical movement, but he did not do that. And I'm sure that he would become a far better medical director. This is a second case where I would say geography makes a difference. The first example that I gave you was functions. The second is related to geography. This is one of our top leaders in the organizations where I worked in the past. He started as a commercial leader and quickly moved as the business head in the US. US is a world by itself. It has its own systems. It has its own ways of working. And then to get more exposure to ex-US countries, he moved as a country head in a European country. It's culturally very different to work in Europe compared to US. But he brought the country back amongst the top 3 in EU, which it was not. With that proven success, he started heading a big Asian country and later heading the whole of emerging markets, that is ranging from Latin America to Japan, and bringing again experiences of the emerging world. Finally, towards the end of his career, he became a board member of one of the top organizations in this world, and bringing all these learnings together for the organizational benefit, not only as an employee, but also as a board member for other organizations. In these 2 case examples, I have shown you that vertical movements do not always work. You have to take horizontal and you have to take diagonal movements as well. Finally, it is a jigsaw of mutual development. The pink arrow that you see is what you are gaining by learning new skills, by opening your own new avenues, by having a better cultural understanding of how teams work, and by making your strong professional impact. The green arrow is what the organization gets from you. You bring in new ideas in new roles when people move. You bring in new diversity in teams so that new ideas come up. You bring in different ways of working and interactions with the team. And most importantly, you mobilize the organization by showing examples of how leaders have moved from one role to the other. So what is it in for you and what is it in for the whole organization? You need to develop yourself as a talent. And these are some of my concluding messages today. I had one slide at the beginning. For some reason, because of these IT problems, we did not show that slide. That slide had pictures of 3 people. 3 people who are unique talents across ages in history of mankind. Michelangelo, a great sculptor, but also became a great painter towards the end of his life. Aryabhat, who gave us the number 0, without whom the whole of mathematics would have been 0. And the revered J.R.D. Tata, who was one of the greatest talented individuals our country has seen in the last 100 years. So develop yourself as a talent, not only as a professional. Look at a long-term horizon wherein things will be much different from what you see today. Take challenging roles. Take roles for which you don't have experience, but you are ready to put in your efforts and exceed in them. That is most important. Finally, learn from self. We often don't learn from ourselves. Learn from self. Keep your eyes and ears open. Learn from others and also learn from your experiences. I would end my presentation with a quote which was said 5,000 years ago on a battlefield in central India. You are what you believe in, and you become that which you believe you can become. The pharmaceutical industry, the healthcare industry will change. You will become healthcare experts in your life, not pharmaceutical physician experts. And how we can work together to enjoy that journey, to contribute to that journey, and to contribute to society is what will distinguish you from hundreds of others who will also run this race. So on that note, I want to thank once again the Mediate and PharmaSteer team for giving me this opportunity to talk, and happy to open this forum for question and answers.
Thank you so much, Dr. Viraj, for that excellent and wonderful presentation. And I know this topic is very important for the students, because where do they go after they have joined in one particular function is something that they always look into. So thank you so much. Due to paucity of time, we'll take one question right now, and then during the faculty live interaction, we can take the rest of the questions. The question that normally is being asked is which therapy area that they have to join, is that important, and do we have to shift from oncology or super specialty therapy area, something like that also takes care in where you're moving ahead in the company?
Always remember that early in your life, try to learn as many things as possible. Get into the company of good people. Early in your life, a therapy area doesn't matter. 2 to 3 years in your life, you try to understand what is very important. And for example, if someone would have said, I want to do infectious disease 2 years back, I would have said, what is the future? With COVID therapeutics, the whole thing's changed. So you don't know how the world is changing. There are few therapy areas which are truly challenging, and a lot of work and research will happen there. Oncology, not because I worked in oncology, but that is definitely an area where everybody is interested in. Cardiovascular disease, because the way we look at cardiovascular disease is changing. Rheumatology is changing in a very big way. But again, don't look into a particular therapy area. You will learn new things. Some of my most important learnings happened when, as a brief period, I was managing ophthalmology. Now, that is not an area which we generally think that is a pharmaceutical physician should be incurred. So don't cocoon yourself to a therapy area early in your life. Learn everything in the first 5 to 8 years and then get into a broader role.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Viraj, for that excellent feedback. Now, let's go to the next topic. So till now, we've understood how do we move from one function to the next. Now, as a fresher, where do you start at? So with that, where do we start? Or role of pharmaceutical physicians in industry? We have with us Dr. Anil Kukrita, Vice President, Medical and Regulatory Affairs, AstraZeneca India. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Apeksha, and thanks PharmaSteer core team for giving this opportunity once again. Apeksha, do I need to share the slides from my side?
They have the presentation, sir. They can share it by themselves as well. Janam, if you could just share the screen. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, perfect. So I think it's always a pleasure to interact with the students, as I spoke during my inauguration few words. And it keeps me young. And in fact, after Dr. Viraj, he has very nicely and very clearly gave the business examples also of the talent movement within the pharma industry and even beyond. In fact, he went even beyond. What I'm trying to do here is, what are the different roles a physician can actually get in the pharmaceutical industry? Now, before I actually go into the physician roles or a pharmaceutical physician role, which was nicely covered even by Dr. Luke as well, I think let's understand what are the different roles in the industry, right? So maybe what I'll do probably, sorry, I'm not able to move. Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, now it is moving. So what are the diverse roles in the pharma industry, and what are the different roles? I think Dr. Viraj did briefly touch upon what are the different roles within medical functions. So there will be some kind of overlap here. What are the diverse roles for a physician in the industry? And more importantly, what are the maybe high level nuances, particularly which is the requirement for these roles? And I will end with my general guidance for the freshers. Now, if I look at the diverse roles in pharma industry, and here this is a typical organogram, and I'm sure one message from this slide is, whenever you are joining any pharma industry, also look at how the organization is structured. Where does the medical leadership reports to? I think that will be crucial, particularly, and I'll come to why I'm making that point. Usually, and the titles will differ from organization to organization. So here I've just given, like, for example, we have country president. Some other organizations may have a managing director. Some organization may have a general manager. So the title may differ, but the role is that the person is responsible for the entire organization within a particular country in India, or maybe for geography also. So you may have an Asia area commercial head also, who is responsible for the entire Asia area. Similarly, for the international region also. Here, this is a typical example of a country. Now, in a country, of course, you have a country president. There is a project management office which reports to country president, which ensures that all the projects in the company are driven appropriately with the rigor. Then there are functional roles which report to the country president. And it's very important you understand this. So BUD stands for Business Unit Director. So these are the commercial roles which are responsible for the business and the revenue of the organization. Sales and marketing, both the functions report predominantly to the business unit director. Now, in some organization, there could be a case where you have a sales separate and marketing separate. But traditionally, what we have seen now is sales and marketing both are working together. And as a business unit, you report to the country president. And there could be a business unit director, couple of roles. They may be integrated also. Now, in our organization, for example, you have a business unit director for oncology, then business unit director for CVRM, which is another therapy area, and business unit director for respiratory and immunology. So depending on the therapy area presence, you might have this structure where business unit or commercial roles report to the country president. Then you have roles like commercial excellence, which drives the commercial excellence across the business unit. Basically, this role is similar to the way medical excellence drives medical excellence across our medical affairs role. Similarly, commercial excellence drives the excellence across the business unit and the commercial roles. Then there are some new roles like, for example, access, government affairs. I think Dr. Viraj also mentioned about the same. So these are the new roles which have been created now, all the more required. Earlier, it was within the commercial role, but now there is a greater need for these roles to be highly specialized with the different skill set. And therefore, there is a need for a separate leadership role in the access as well as in government affairs. And they definitely report to the country president. Then in addition, of course, we have a legal, we have compliance, we have finance, and we have a human resources function. I think overall, this is the structure, and therefore you should be aware about it. Now, if you look at the bottom, what I've given actually below is how do these roll a vertical movement, which Dr. Viraj was mentioning, and it can be a horizontal movement. I will emphasize on that also. So usually as a BUD, you start either in sales or in marketing or in a key account manager. So again, in marketing, you can start as a product specialist or a product manager. And these titles are different, but these are basically a starting role. So you can start as a medical representative. You can start as a key account management. You can start as a product specialist role. And then based on the marketing and sales exposure, you can grow up in the career and take the role of a business unit director and come into the leadership role. Similarly, in the commercial excellence, you can start in the training, or you can start in the marketing or sales force effectiveness as an executive, and then gradually grow in the career as a commercial excellence person. In access, sometimes, and I've seen many of the times, you start with either an institutional business person, you start as a patient advocacy person, and then gradually grow with acquiring different skills into an access leadership role. Now, particularly, I'll come to medical in the subsequent slide, but government affairs also, and you can see the access, medical, government affairs, there's a lot of overlap of the functions as well. These are predominantly non-promotional roles. They are not responsible for the revenue at the organization level. They do definitely contribute from a strategy perspective, from a even execution perspective. They become more of enablers for revenue generation, not directly contributing, and their objectives does not have a sales target, I would say. Their objectives would be different and defined differently as well. Now, let me come to the roles within medical function. I think this is again typical. It may differ from organization to organization. So, for example, we have a vice president. Some organization may have a medical director. Some organization may have a head of medical affairs. Those titles. Predominantly, the role more or less remains the same. Now, you have a therapy area-wise medical strategy roles responsible. Similarly, it may be called as a group medical manager in some organization. We have a therapy area lead as a role. Similarly, we have a different therapy areas. So, for example, in our organization, it will be therapy area lead for oncology, therapy area lead for CVRM, therapy area lead for respiratory and immunology. Then more and more important is now, if you see the diagnostic head, now this may not be present in all the organization, but why in some organization it becomes important for us to have this role is that you are more and more we are seeing the products which require biomarker testing. So somebody has to drive the biomarker testing awareness, access to the testing, and quality of testing. And that's why there is a role based on the business needs. Then you have a clinical operations function and regulatory and patient safety functions. So these are the different functions within the medical. And if you see the starting roles in this, again, is you start as a MSL. It can be called as a regional medical advisor. It can be called as a medical advisor, and of course, the medical manager. You can start also as a clinops. I think Dr. Viraj also mentioned, you can start as a clinops and grow up in the career as a group medical manager gradually. So again, this is the example where people shift within the medical affairs. Diagnostics, we have seen clearly the people are coming more from a diagnostic lab or diagnostic company, or maybe they are coming from a research lab where they've worked very, very closely on the genomics, personalized diagnostics, those kind of areas. Clinops, as we heard actually earlier also, the starting role may be the clinical trial assistant, the clinical research associate. Sometimes you can join as a physician. Usually you may join as a clinical study role or clinical study lead role or medical monitor. In regulatory and patient safety, of course, it will be an executive, then growing up as a associate manager, and gradually you grow up as a regulatory and patient safety function. Now, broadly, what are the diverse functional roles? And I think it's important for students to know medical affairs, what I mentioned, particularly is more about medical strategy and execution. And we heard also from Dr. Luke. We need to have a medical strategy aligned to the business strategy. And predominantly the role will be leading from a scientific, delivering on a scientific leadership, bringing the right insights for the business strategy, and more importantly, also collaborating with across the functions. In clinical operations, we have responsibilities of evidence generation, and they have to ensure the GCP compliances as well. And more importantly, sometimes, most of the times, these roles will be merged with the medical writing, medical excellence roles, because this is where you actually, these are agnostic and maybe across the therapy areas, and they can contribute from a process perspective in terms of laying down the publication plan, collaborating with medical affairs to ensure that the publication plan is delivered. And we bring the practice shaping publications from this function. So in addition to evidence generation, publication as well. Diagnostics, as I mentioned, predominantly works on three: awareness, access, and quality of biomarker testing. And usually it is aligned again to the business strategy and the medical strategy. Regulatory focus function predominantly on how do you have a devise the regulatory strategy and accelerate the regulatory approvals. And most important role is ensure the business continuity and maintain all the licenses which are required to be maintained so that the products are supplied to the patients in a continuous manner. From a patient safety role, and in our organization, regulatory and patient safety are combined, but these are two distinct roles, but these are combined more from a leadership perspective, but there is a dedicated patient safety responsible and dedicated regulatory team reporting to the director of patient safety and regulatory. Patient safety builds the culture of safety reporting, not only within AstraZeneca, but more importantly, even amongst the partners and collaborators of AstraZeneca, because that becomes a fundamental responsibility that safety needs to be reported from across all the sources of information. They monitor the literature, they monitor the media, they monitor and ensures that all the safety events are captured from the clinical trials, from patient support programs. And this timely capture of safety information, reporting to the health authorities and captured within the safety databases, and thereby ensuring the pharmacovigilance compliance. So this is the broader role of patient safety. I'm sure you will hear from other speakers as well. And as Dr. Viraj mentioned, I think the new roles which are emerging, patient centricity, innovation, how do you leverage the new technologies? How do you work with the startups so that you are driving the transformation in the healthcare innovation through this innovation system? So healthcare systems now are adapting more and more innovative solutions. Or can we work with the startups and take the innovation to the healthcare systems and really transform the healthcare and improve the outcomes? And that's the role of innovation. Digital health, I think you will hear more often from other speakers as well, but this is catching really the attention. I think Dr. Viraj also touched briefly. And these are the new roles. Even, in fact, collaboration with access and government affairs, but also many of the medical affairs leaders are, in fact, contributing to access roles and the government affairs roles. And sometimes, in fact, the medical people are preferred. So our government affairs colleague is a medical doctor, and he is actually working very closely with the governments as well. And he is actually leading, he's part of the leadership team. He's a medical doctor, and he's working very, very closely with the central government, as well as now he started working and creating a state teams who will be working very closely with the state governments. Ultimately, if you want to transform the healthcare, you need to work very, very closely with the government as well, and also contribute in policy shaping at a national level as also with the state level. Now, when we look at these roles, what are the starting roles for these functions? So medical affairs, as we said, starting role will be MSL, RMA, or medical advisor. The terminology is different. Predominantly, the role is how do you execute the medical strategy which is developed by the cross-functional team or which is developed by the medical strategy leader, right? And not only it is developed by them, but you are co-creating the strategy as well by valuable insights coming from your field interactions, your KE interactions, who are the real experts, who are actually treating patients. While interacting with them in a peer-to-peer dialogue session, you get a lot of insights. And these insights are useful to inform the medical strategy and also the business strategy at an organization level. And of course, you will drive the scientific events. You will impart training to all your cross-functional team as well as the sales colleagues as well. The clinical study lead or medical monitor is the role, which is a starting role, particularly for pharmaceutical physicians, when you aspire to join the clinical operations team or clinical trials team, I would say. And here the predominant role is clinical study project management, and you will achieve the study deliverables, as well as if you're joining in a very specialist role, which is a medical monitoring role, you will predominantly be doing the medical monitoring of the study, ensuring that all the patients which are enrolled are as per the protocol eligibility criteria, and all the safety aspects are appropriately reviewed, monitored in a quality manner. Now, coming to the starting role in the diagnostic team, predominantly, these are again, I remember a pathologist joining, and even our diagnostic head also is coming from a huge experience of a diagnostic. So here, starting role will be again, execution of the diagnostic strategy. You will join as a diagnostic scientific liaison, where you will contribute in shaping the diagnostic landscape in the particular geography. The starting role in regulatory, of course, would be developing the regulatory strategy, and you will be contributing to thorough evaluation of pipeline portfolio. So we have a role, pipeline portfolio manager, sometimes in some of the regulatory functions. And the role is a medical person reviewing the pipeline, not only of the organization, but pipeline across the industry, and really developing and informing the strategy at an organization level that which products make sense for us to accelerate, and therefore participation in the global clinical trials becomes all the more important. And therefore we have a good evaluation of a new product portfolio planning committee, right? So this role of a physician is very, very crucial here. Now, sometimes this role can be played by the medical manager also. Not necessarily that in every organization you have a separate person in the regulatory only doing this. So medical affairs manager and regulatory team can collaborate to actually do it jointly. Safety physician, I think here, as I mentioned, a thorough review and preparation of some of the safety documents which are required to be submitted, the PSUR, the risk mitigation plan, and more importantly, medical evaluation and review of safety events which are coming, and ensuring a quality safety reporting which happens within the organization. The new roles which are emerging, I think Dr. Viraj spoke at length about it. I'll not go really in detail, but these are something which we are trying to drive patient centricity across the therapy areas, patient engagement, and also patient advocacy, so that the voice of patient is brought at a center. Similarly, if you're talking about innovation, then working very, very closely with startups. If you're talking about digital health, looking at all the ways and multi-channel by which the medical affairs can live that role. And those are the new roles which are emerging. Most of the times, these are merged within the existing roles which are currently doing the role. So these are additional responsibility of the current medical affairs role. Now, these are the what we really look at, and these are some pragmatic tips actually. What we look for in a physician in the start role. Most important is, does the person or a candidate clearly understands the role? Is he interested in the role? And is he passionate about the role or not? And that's at the center of when we really evaluate a person who joins fresh. This is what we really look for. Of course, we also sometimes additional data points come, and that becomes a differential for the students. Is what about his knowledge level? What are the relevant projects from the student life we can actually probe in the interaction? What about his learning agility? Can he demonstrate that? Communication skills, the confidence to live that role. Of course, the relevant computer skills also, because a lot of time as a medical affairs professional, we need to really build the presentations. We need to really develop the project management. You really need to look at the Excel spreadsheet and all other things. Of course, apart from that, knowing the organization, cultural fitment, and that's something which is a soft evaluation part, which actually is also a differential when we evaluate the candidates. And these are specific for each role. I will not go more or less, everything is clear, but specific for MSL role, because this is one starting role which majority of you might opt for, because that's the starting role for within the medical affairs. The scientific knowledge, the depth and the breadth of scientific knowledge. So particularly when I evaluate any of the candidate. Nowadays, I don't evaluate. The people who are reporting to me evaluate the candidates. But when I used to evaluate, I used to look at from his dissertation project or thesis, how much depth and breadth of the science he brings actually, and not relevant to our therapy area where he has worked actually. Relevant experience, has he worked maybe some internship, or look at any industry projects where the person has worked? Does he understand the challenges of the role? And can he clearly articulate his interest, passion, and the challenges also? Apart from that, of course, as I said, soft skills in terms of teaching, training, any other skills which the person brings. And here the CSL is not the field medical role. Here I'm talking about the clinical study role, lead role. That's the clinical operations function. And if you look at here, predominantly what we look at, has he got the knowledge on the drug development? Does he have a relevant experience and a project management skills? And of course, apart from that, the relevant computer skills, as I spoke about. For a safety physician, predominantly about pharmacovigilance basic understanding. Is he passionate about the pharmacovigilance? What about his knowledge about PB regulations and GVP? Does he understand the overall high-level understanding about the various safety documents? So if you're applying for that role, it's good to have a broad understanding of these various skills and the knowledge from a industry point of view as well. Regulatory role, again, high level about relevant regulations, at least what are the different stakeholders, the regulators which are there in the country? What is the legal framework overall? And if he brings relevant experience of maybe helping the faculty for subject expert committee thorough evaluation of the dossiers, I think those are sometimes in the past, it was a unique differential, and therefore actually you will pick up the candidate who brings that differential. Now, broadly coming to, just to summarize actually, general guidance for the students here. One, of course, is while you are being the students, and I think this orientation actually is a step in that direction, is awareness on the new regulations which are emerging. I think Dr. Thatte ma'am spoke about new drugs and trials regulation. So making yourself conversant on those NDCT rules, which is important. What are the new drugs being introduced by the various companies? Not only the company for which you are applying, but various other companies in the same therapy area. I think that will be important. Of course, what about overall landscape? What are the mergers happening, acquisitions happening? Because you should know overall about what is happening in the pharma industry. Very important is your seniors who are working in the industry, networking with them. That might help you to at least have a better chance of knowing about the role. Whether you get it or not, of course, depends on competition. But at least being aware about how the roles are known, at least through that networking. Then exposure assignments, for example, I spoke about internship. May not be a formal internship, but are there any projects in which you have worked in the pharma along with the pharma companies? I remember during our time where there never used to be a internship, but I remember our professor asking us that, okay, can you take the class training sessions for some of the pharma industry sales reps? And there was a collaboration between the pharma companies and the college. So it's these kind of projects might help. Then proactively building know-how on emerging areas, as I think Dr. Viraj emphasized on it. So it's very important that we know what are the emerging areas. What about artificial intelligence? What about machine learning? What about digital health, social listening, patient engagement? I think these are new emerging areas, and therefore we should be at least start to doing a student life. Best thing is that start knowing high-level information about these emerging areas as well. So let me pause here. These are the various starting roles and the requirements. I hope these are useful and some general guidances as well. But more, maybe if there are any questions, more than happy to take them.
Thank you, Dr. Anil. I think that was really helpful, especially for students, because that's how they're going to join the medical affairs or any other functions, and what role they have as an MD pharmacologist in the pharmaceutical industry is something that they really wanted to know. And I think there was a lot of questions also that we've already asked them priorly, and there were a lot of questions on that. So we can take that during the live faculty interaction, but there's one unique question that's come up. The question is, as a starter, is a medical advisor compared to that of a regional medical advisor?
Yeah, so it will depend on the description of the role by different pharma companies. As I said, I started as a medical advisor, and it used to be a mixed role of both the RMA as well as you are part of the cross-functional team. So sometimes medical advisor as a starting role will be, you will play a field medical role as well as a strategic role in the cross-functional team. So it's a kind of a hybrid role, but again, it differs from the organization to organization. It will be important as a starter to have whatever role you get. More important is, does that role excites you or not? Are you up for that role or not? And will you make through your efforts successful in that role or not? So that your career journey starts on a very solid foundation.
Sorry, I think I was on mute. Thank you so much, Dr. Anil, for that guidance. With this, we finish the scientific sessions of the day. Now let's proceed with the live faculty interactions. Students who have received the link, there's only few set of students that we've selected for this particular live faculty interactions, but others can see this interaction live. So whoever have not received the link can surely see this interaction live. And we would start this interaction in 5 minutes. I would request Riverroot team to kindly activate the webinar link for the faculty, for the students as well. So with this, let's see you in the live faculty interaction session.
Hello, hi, Dr. Viraj, Dr. Luke.
Hello, Dr. Anil. Hello, madam. Hello, Luke.
Let's give 5 minutes for students to join in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Students, you'll be in the attendees list for now. I'll give the guidance in another few minutes of how we'll be proceeding with this particular session.
I can see the attendees increasing now. Yeah, this is the new experiment from our side also.
Very good.
As Dr. Urmila madam was saying,
I can't see them. Why can't I see them?
Ma'am, they're in the attendees list as of now. If you can see, attendees are 8 right now. So there are 8 students, now 10. So slowly this will increase, and I'll give the guidance for the students because otherwise there would be a technical problem in terms of handling the mic and videos, etc. So now we'll keep them in the attendees list. I'll let you know once we start the session.
How many did we have today, Apeksha?
Ma'am, so as of now, we had around 150 or 160 who are live right now.
Oh, very nice. Very good. And this is all across the country?
Yes, sir. We had around 350 registrations. And the thing is, first years have not joined this year because of COVID and all that. So it's only second years and third years who have been there. Okay, so another 3 minutes for students to join in. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr.
will the technology allow us to see them and interact with them face-to-face setting?
Yes,
Okay.
but not everybody together. We'll keep one after the other.
Okay. Okay.
So again, we might improvise later on, but this time, since we didn't want any technical glitches, at least starting, so we've just thought of keeping them as attendees for now and slowly shifting them to panelists.
Logo is very nice. Who developed the logo?
Riverroot team, I guess, the PharmaSteer logo.
Yes. Okay, very good.
So we've only sent it to very few students for faculty interactions, especially only second years, because they would be interested in internship, and the ones who have told that they're interested in faculty interaction. So those are the only ones we've noted. You can see people have already started messaging in the chat. Good evening, everyone. Jai Vignesh. Another minute, and then I give the guidance, as well as start with an icebreaker session, and then ask them to start. Sure, perfect. Janam will start. Sure, perfect. Thank you everyone for joining on time. Before we start, a few guidelines. Would request the students to kindly raise your hand whenever you want any questions to the faculty, and kindly switch on your video. So as soon as you raise your hand, we will shift you to the panelist session, and then you can switch on your video as well. And once you've entered in, you will be sent to the attendee list again once you've finished your question and the answers have been given. It might not be related to the topics of today. You can ask any question that you want to ask to the faculty involving anything, any doubt that you have in your mind. You can direct it to any faculty or ask in general, and we can ask the panel who would like to answer the question as well. We might take few questions every day depending upon the timing. I know you have already given us some questions that you want to ask to the faculty. Depending on the time, we would just take few questions, and every day or every faculty day, we have similar sessions. So your questions might be answered on the next day as well. So with this few guidelines, I would like to share my screen and start with few. Let me see if I can share my screen. Okay. There's no screen. Perfect. I would. My video is not being shared. Jenna, just give me a second. Yes, can you see my screen? And the students also can see the screen?
We can see Slido.
Yes, perfect. So I would request the students to kindly go to this website, slido.com, and the code is 123412. So I'll give you a minute. Go to this website, slido.com, and the code is 123412. You can also use this QR code or scan the QR code and go to this website. People who are live also can use the same slide, slido.com, or the ones who are not in the live faculty session but are looking at us live, they can also use this particular session, slido.com. Go to this website, slido.com, hashtag 123412, and scan this QR code. Okay. 30 seconds. Sure. Now let's go to the first question. You can type as many responses you want, but just if you could have an extra hour of free time every day, how would you use it? You can type in, there are multiple words. You can type in as many words, just keep it one after the other. Kindly start using it. So again, slido.com, go to this website, slido.com, and put in the hashtag 12. The code is 123412. Yes, you're getting some activations. Reading newspapers, perfect. Any others? Read more. There's a lot of readers here. Anybody else? You're typing the code here. Medical updates, perfect. Anything else? Reading, exercise, wow. Learn a new skill, perfect. Anything else? Surf about Medifacts, perfect. Anything else? Exercise, I can see exercise. Improve myself. Traveling, anything that is okay. Personal creative project, wow. Watch a movie, perfect. Traveling, anything that's becoming a common thing for anybody. Used to improve my hobbies, cycling, article readings, exercise. I can see a lot of people with exercise, reading, medical updates. Any other out of the box? Perfect. That's really nice to know that there are a lot of readers here, as well as the ones who are, know how important exercise is. Sleeping. Okay, that's become a most common topic. Sleeping. If you get an extra hour of free time, meditate. That's nice. Exercise, meditation. Okay, meditate, sleeping, and exercise has become the common theme. That's nice. That's nice to know. Nice to know. So there are 26 responses as of now. Okay, so let's go to the next one now. What are your expectations from PharmaSteer 2021? Any points? Quickly, let's give you a minute. Offline internship, okay. If this would have been live, the first question I would have asked is, what does offline internship mean? Okay, career guidance, that's perfect. RP, I think that was a typo error. Insights about pharma career, okay. Know more about industry, insights and participation, that's great. Know the role in the industry, yes. Our agenda, if you see, is more or less dependent on that. There's a big, everybody is writing a lot about offline internship. Let's see, what does that mean? Career guidance, perfect. Internships, insights about pharma career guidance. That's something that's becoming a common topic right now. Yes, again, career guidance, something that is different, that we've not included. I hope you get to see all of this in this PharmaSteer 2021 as well. Perfect. So we've got 28 responses. Now the next and the last, we're still getting, so career guidance and offline internships is something that all are interested in. So let's go to the last question. If you want to type 2 of your greatest skills, what would that be? So just have 2 in your mind or 3 at the max. What would that be? So go one after the other. Don't type it in one sentence. So you have different options. So you can just type one and then second and the third. Communications, hardworking. Okay, perfect. I think for medical affairs, communication is something really good. Hardworking, Effective communications. Organization, so you mean to say organization skills, team player, reading. Oh, so scientific acumen is something that everyone is interested in. And I could see that in the first session as well. What would an extra hour be? The majority of people were talking about is reading. Communications, perfect. Yes, effective communications, reading, communications, etc. Perfect. So there are 20 responses. Let's have 5 more, and then we finish with this icebreaker and start with the first question that's come up or asked many a times to the panelists. And then I would request you to kindly raise your hand whenever you have a question in hand. Okay, perfect. Hardworking, communications, determined, reading, effective communication. So that's it. I'll stop the polls here. And the first question to the panelists, there's a lot of questions that's come up in the chat box. What skills they have to prepare during the MD pharmacologist times. Let me stop sharing my screen. During the MD pharmacologist or during their MD, what skills they should learn so that it will be easy for them to join the pharmaceutical industry. So I start with the first speaker, Dr. Urmila Tate, anything from your end, and then we go with Dr. Luke as well.
To know what to do in industry? No, I'm the wrong person to ask. I have no clue at all. I have no experience in industry also.
Okay, perfect.
Madam's success as an academician is the biggest loss to the industry. I've said this 10 times in India. But
thank you, Viraj, but I still don't think I can answer that question. So,
sure. Dr. Luke?
Ask the industry bigwigs.
Yes, perfect. Dr. Luke, what, according to you, during their MD during their MD career, what skills they should learn so that it will help them during the pharmaceutical industry?
If you want me to tell one skill which I think everybody should have is communications.
Perfect.
Communication skills, the ability to talk to peers as well as to seniors, as well as to juniors, to subordinates, everybody. You should be able to talk to everybody in the correct way. I think that would be my one skill which people should learn. And they should learn it through observation. And one thing which my teacher, Dr. Dahanukar, had taught me was that there'll be not one teacher, although she was my teacher. She said she had always encouraged, she said, don't learn only from one teacher. Look at all the teachers you have and learn and pick up the good points from everybody so that you will learn more and you will pick up more. So this is true for even MD students when you're actually doing your work, your studies. According to me, what you should do is observe people, observe all your teachers. You won't have industry experience, but you will learn how to communicate and how not to communicate also. So I think it's something that you should pay attention to and carefully look at.
Sure. Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Urmila ma'am. Dr. Luke, any suggestions from your side?
No, actually, I echo what Matt said, right? So actually, we did recruit quite many or try to interview many people who would like to join industry as their first job, right? And then I guess two things we are particularly looking at, right? One is still, right, the size, right? So the size is not only how saying that advanced degree you have, right? But then actually more with how curious or the curiosity you will be to get a bit more science, a bit flavor here and there, right? Because it's really recent days and science really updating every day, right? So I guess it's really the scientific curiosity. And second thing is really the communication, right? How you be able to make friends, right? Here and there. I guess that's really a key thing, right? And probably a bit add on, right, for students. I think pharma industry is a bit more and more diversified, right? So the ability to connect people, but then also to connect different ideas, connect different dots. I guess that's really a key, right? So in school life, if you can practice, right, to observe, but then to try to practice your curiosity to connect different things together to make more friends. I think this will be the key, right? But that's just my personal perspective. Might be too Viraj.
Sure, thanks, Dr. Lok. Dr. Viraj, what about you? What, according to you, is the most important skills that they should learn during their pharmacological?
Yes, so I think, I agree with what Madam has said and also what Luke has said. A couple of things. Again, I will not get into the science part. That's a part of curriculum. You are expected to know science. You are expected to know new developments of science. One is going beyond your call of duty. What can you do beyond what you could do? In 3 years of residency, well, you could just sit, do your things, read, and clear your exams. Is that what you are developing yourself as a professional? Can you start partnering with clinical departments? Can you say, okay, I will sit with you in the OPDs. I will see how patients come. I will work as a study coordinator with you, because you are then getting insights from patients directly. And secondly, can you tell the department, okay, let's organize something? Many times when we were in KEM, I remember we used to organize all these big programs. And as a resident, you are told to do many things. And eventually when you join the industry, you realize that you are also organizing scientific events. You are developing a platform for people to interact. So this would be my second thing. And my last thing would be listen. Listen to everybody around you. Clinical departments, pharmacology departments, people, technicians working in your department, listen, because this is the biggest art of communication that we often don't pay more attention to. Communication starts with listening to others and listening in the right way. These would be the 3 things that I would suggest.
Thanks.
Can I just add one more thing?
Yes, please, ma'am.
So I think one thing that Viraj said, which struck me as very important in his talk, was about developing a social media presence. And I think if you are planning to go into industry, you should remember to make your social media presence also I don't know, in the right way, in the way that makes some kind of an impact, because you can, be extremely ridiculous sometimes in what you put up in your social media, on your Facebook page and things like that. And I think I would suggest to you that you put in some thought, what is the type of image you want to create about yourself? Because remember, this creates an image of you as a person who is whatever is your image. It creates an image. So I think that's a very important thing that you said, Viraj. And I think that's important because if I know the people who interview you, they will look at your social media presence. That's the way they get to know you. Just like you, sir, when you go for an interview, you will research the company. I think that the people who are interviewing you will also look at how will they find you if not by your presence on social media. So be careful what you post and be correct in what you post. I mean, I'm sorry if that sounds restrictive and why should I do that and all, it's fine, don't do it. But this is a suggestion. I mean, think about it.
Thanks, Dr. Urmila. That was an excellent suggestion as well. Dr. Anil, over to you with the same question.
I think all the points are covered. I will just say that going beyond curiosity is please experiment and even learn from the failures. I think that's very, very important because every project will teach us something, and maybe a reflection, building on to one of the points which Dr. Viraj mentioned, right? We don't learn from self. So how do you learn from your own projects? That how can you do it better? That mindset of continuous improvement and that actually helps you to move towards excellence in any role.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Anil. So now we have a question from Jai Vignesh. I would request Janam to kindly shift him to the panelist so that he can switch on the video and ask the question himself. Yes, Jai Vignesh?
Yes.
You can switch on your video as well.
I'm trying this way.
If he's okay with putting on.
Yeah, if you're not comfortable, you can ask the question directly.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, sir.
Yes, please ask the question, Jai.
I'm Dr. Jai Vignesh from JNMC, Belgavi, Karnataka, sir.
Yes, Dr. Jai Vignesh, kindly ask.
Yes, sir. Sir, my question is, when I'm posted in department in pharma industry, whether I posted in department like oncology, how I can start with my department and how I can proceed, sir?
Okay. I think I can ask, if I've understood your question, Dr. Jay Vignesh, is that if I start my career in oncology, is that
As a
the right approach? And how do we proceed further? Which therapy area shall I go? Is that the right
Yes. Yes,
question?
ma'am.
Okay, perfect. I think I can ask this question to Dr. Viraj since it was similar to your topic today. Dr. Viraj, over to you.
Yes. So, Jai Vignesh, first and foremost, I'm sure that you will continue to do very good work in Belgavi, and that is again a big center for medical education and research in Karnataka. Oncology is the in thing, and both Luke, Dr. Anil, we've all worked in oncology at different stages of our life. It is in thing because it's an unmet need. There's a lot of new science which is developing. Personalized diagnostics is becoming the norm. And there are new treatments which really are ensuring that cancer no longer remains the cause of death. That is our motto in AstraZeneca as well. And oncology is a very, very good therapy area because it is very high science. And that is a good area to start with. But at the same time, I've also seen that with many people working in oncology, they do not then broaden their horizons. They are not open for learning new things, which you can also learn from other specialty care and primary care. So more than saying oncology, I would say you should have a fair balance of experience in specialty care, which includes oncology, but could include rheumatology, it could include immunology going forward, it could include ophthalmology, and primary care, which is, predominantly most of the primary care diseases like asthma, diabetes, who are treated at a primary care and then get into specialized care. If you move into oncology, I think the world is really very, very, very diverse, and you would do extremely well. But at an early stage of your career, don't restrict yourself. Don't, I always say this, don't become a cardiac surgeon before you have become MBBS. Go through the process, learn different things. And at some stage, if you have a lot of more interest in oncology, get into that. But again, there are people who have entirely spent their whole life in oncology and have done well. So there is no correct answer to that. But generally in India, it is better first 2-3 years, learn multiple skills, multiple areas, and then start moving into one therapy area. But Dr. Anil here, very well experienced in oncology. Can you please comment?
Yeah, so I'll just build on that, and I echo completely, Dr. Viraj, what you mentioned. So even if I speak about my personal career journey also, initial few years was in the mass therapy areas. And I'm sure for example, I've handled the science of calcium supplementation and build the brands like Shelcal. I'm sure everyone knows about the brand Shelcal, right? Similarly, understand the science about allergy and build the brands of Allegra, right? So we all have known about these brands. So I'm sure like we have worked on the mass therapy area, but I think having diverse experiences, as I think we discussed very clearly in your talk, Dr. Viraj, having diverse experiences will really help. Experience of mass therapy area has different nuances. Experience of specialty therapy area will have a different nuances. Having mixture of both these collective experiences will really be useful from a overall when you grow actually in the leadership area. So these having collation of different experiences and skills from different therapy areas in the initial part of your career might be very, very useful.
Thanks, Dr. Anil, for that question, and thanks, Dr. Viraj, as well. The next question I would like to ask Dr. Luke. This question was on the topic of what Dr. Anil suggested, but this was directed towards you. How to decide best field, whether it's pharmacovigilance, researcher in clinical trial, medical advisor for postgraduate after their PG. How to know what best suits them?
That's a good question, right? But then the answer actually very similar to what Viraj and Anil just mentioned, right?
Yes.
You need to start somewhere, right? And then to experience, and then you know better where you want to go. I think might be a bit additional 2 points, right? One is we always talk about career, I mean, here and there, right? But then career is just one thing, right? The other thing will be I mean, career, I'm saying career advance, right? It's one thing, right? We always need to consider, but then there are additional two aspects we also need to think about. One is your interest, right? So give a bit example of myself, right? So I mean, I was a psychiatrist by training for quite some time, right? And so when I first joined industry, I'm really working for neuroscience portfolio for 2, 3, 4 years, right? And I start to feel, oh, what's not that interesting anymore because I quit clinical practice to join the industry. I really want to broaden my experiences and my interactions, right? So I really changed a lot to encourage to other elements. So it's really depending on your interest stable, but then also your personality, right? As Viraj mentioned, right? There are people also working for oncology, or I have a good friend in Basel who has been for pharmacovigilance for 20 years, right? And super senior, super happy with his career and still now, right? So let's not really single answer to say, oh, where you want to start and where you should stay on, right? But then you need to really to try, right? To experience, as Viraj said, listen to other people. And also, as Man said, right? To observe, right? And then most importantly, might be still to experience, right? Then you will know, right? And then don't always think about title, right? Career advance as your first ideas. You just need to sometimes need to follow your own heart, right? But then yeah, but otherwise, I guess that's not really a simple answer on this. But then just try a bit more experience, and then you will know.
So let me just add a picture here. Some years back, when I was speaking at an event in India, and one very young resident, he came and he said that, where should I join? Should I join medical or marketing? And I said, well, there is no clear answer to that. It depends, right? There are many medics who join marketing. In fact, Novartis, I remember Daniel Vasella, if I'm not wrong, was the CEO of Novartis. He was a physician by training. Pascal Soriot, our CEO, whom we are very proud of, is a veterinarian by training. So, there are people with strong scientific background. So I said, you could, and then he asked me the second question. He said, no, where will there be more money, medical or marketing? So I said, you must join marketing. And he said, oh, is there more money? I said, I don't know. But the way you think, your skills will be much better off in marketing. And there's nothing wrong in that. So, it all depends on how you are thinking. And maybe at the end of it, you realize that you are earning more in medical, probably. But the way you think gives you an answer of what you want to do. You would be miserable in medical affairs if you come with this mindset.
Can I just add one thing?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Just one thing that I recommend to all my students at least. Take up a job which you like, which you will enjoy. Because if you go every day to a job which you don't like, you are going to be miserable. And that's not what you want in life. However much money it gives you, I can assure you confidently that doesn't give you happiness. You will need money. You will want to join, or you will want to change companies for more money. I have no quarrels about that. And everybody, all my colleagues my students earn more than I do, which I don't have any quarrels about because I have never wanted to do any other job other than teaching, and have enjoyed my teaching career tremendously. And so I think I would request you to seriously understand yourself first. Remember to understand yourself, to try to find out what it is that you like and try to go there. And for that, you really need to understand yourself. You need to think it through first. What is it? My son, when he did medical and he did medicine in KEM only. My husband is a surgeon. So he told him, now you should become a surgeon. So he said that, no, I don't want to become a surgeon. I'm not interested in that. I don't enjoy it. He became a pediatrician and he became a pediatric cardiologist. He's in Boston Children's now and he's doing well for himself. Whatever. So, it's you should take up the career that you enjoy, that you want to do. You will succeed in it, whatever happens, and you will do well in it because you like that job. That's it.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Mala ma'am. It's also important of where and what you want to do rather than where others want to take you as well.
Yeah, and it's not where there is scope. There's scope everywhere. Anywhere there is scope, in wherever marketing and whatever, medicine, medical, wherever there is scope everywhere. It depends on you. It depends on your abilities, and it depends on your ability to do well in that region, that area. You shouldn't go into marketing if you don't enjoy selling things. I mean, I would be miserable over there, for example. I mean, I know I would be miserable in industry. So I never joined it. I'm genuinely happy where I am. I was. I mean, now I'm retired. But this is my life. I've enjoyed teaching. So I think you should find out from yourself, talk to yourself, and find out what is it that you enjoy. Do not feel embarrassed because XYZ is earning more than you. Happiness is not, you can't buy happiness through money. I'm assure you about this. Remember this. I know everybody will say money is needed. You need money, you need a house, you need to get married and get children and stuff like that. All that is acceptable. But you don't have to earn 200,000 US dollars to do that.
Correct.
You can get it with 200,000 rupees also, perhaps. But, you can be happy, because I think at this age, I think this is what I would strongly recommend people, that do what makes you happy.
Sure.
Find out what you want, what you like.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for that words of wisdom, Dr. Urmila ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Janam. The next question is by Hussein. If I'm pronouncing it right, yes, you're already in the panelist. If you could ask your question as well.
For a pharmacology student going to the industry, I just wanted to know what kind of experience should I gain so that in a few years or maybe a long time later that I can become an independent entrepreneur and run my own industry, or like maybe not a big one, but at least a small place where I can give opportunities to others to experience the same thing which I did. So that's what I wanted to ask.
Thanks, Hussein. Just wanted to check, do you want a particular faculty to answer this question, or is it for everyone?
No, it's for everyone.
Okay, then I'll reroute it to Dr. Viraj, because he had put that particular point of startups in your presentation. So Dr. Viraj, over to you.
Sometime back when I was managing India with Apeksha and with Amit, there was an interesting person who came to meet us in our Bangalore office. He was wearing a t-shirt and jeans and sneakers. And I have been brought out in the Shashi Tharoor school of thinking, where I feel that people should be dressed, eloquently when they come. He said, I want to partner with all of you. Initially, my impression was, who is he? What is he bringing to the table? Later on, we realized that he has developed one of the India's, and not only India, now one of the emerging markets' biggest AI platform for early screening and diagnosis in lung cancer. And we are partnering with him and his company, Predible and Cure AI, in different countries. Now, these are extremely intelligent people from IIT. I'm just giving you an example. What made them move into this? They could have moved into US and sat in some of the big tech companies doing computer programming. No, they did not do that. They moved into entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is challenging. Initial years will be very challenging. But again, if you can dream, and if you can bring your dream to reality, only dreaming doesn't take you anywhere. Dreaming is important, but bringing that dream into reality and partnering with the right people is something that you do. I would strongly suggest that if once you finish your residency, join an industry, learn different aspects, move into different functions, and then move into an entrepreneurial business. Diagnostics is a very big thing. How can you bring home care diagnostics? How can you leverage on artificial intelligence? We have restricted artificial intelligence to imaging. Can you move beyond that? So these are some of the things that you could really think about. But challenge yourself. The biggest important thing is entrepreneurship is challenge. Even if you fall, get up and say that, yes, this is a learning. Take learnings from those falls and move ahead. And if you do that, you will be successful. And I really hope that Hussein, you become an entrepreneur. Not everybody should join the industry and become medical advisors and heads of medical affairs. We need entrepreneurs with whom we will partner. And we have an A-Catalyst innovation hub in India. And you should contact Dr. Anil and his team and they can actually work. We work with new partners, we work with NESCOM.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Hussain. I hope that answers your question. But if Dr. Luke, Dr. Anil, or Dr. Urmila have anything to add on to it, welcome.
So probably a bit, all right. I actually agree with every single word that Viraj mentioned, right? And then personally, I did have 2-3 really close friends who are already in a relatively senior position, still within medical, right? But then now they are CEOs for 2 of them, right? Now are CEOs for not really small, right? But biotech companies. And then I really appreciate and I guess I really respect them, right? They have a different characteristic than me, right? But then they really also appreciate their experiences in the industry, as Viraj mentioned, right? I mean, the way how to run a big organization, and also what's the challenge if your organization is super huge, right? So there are many ways you can really learn from, but then you need to work for a good company again, right? As I mentioned earlier, right? Maybe AstraZeneca is a good one. Then you learn a lot, positive side, but then also a bit downside, right? And then you also have good networkings, right? And then will be your turn to really drive your business, which, as Viraj mentioned, I really appreciate, and hopefully we can see your success, right? And then connect back to us.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Hussain, for your question. Thank you, Dr. Luke, for that. Dr. Anil, anything to add before I go to the next? I think.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think maybe there are many examples, Hussain. I would just say that learn from those examples. And these examples are where doctors have really become entrepreneurs and they have really created a good startups. And I think Dr. Viraj mentioned one from IIT. I can mention another one from our medical colleagues. Like, for example, cardiologist, but he has developed a AI-based ECG diagnostics. And that company today is servicing to so many cardiac patients across the world. By sitting in Bangalore, he has so many cardiologists now working for him and contributing and improving the outcomes for the cardiac patients. And it's a huge, I would say, enterprise now which he has built. And he started very few years back as a simple startup company, but contributed and partnered with the technology folks and really developed something which was very differential for the cardiac patients. So as a medical person, if you have a good idea, definitely that idea should not get wasted. Either you should bring it in the industry or you should build an enterprise around that idea and really make that idea successful. I think that is something which I will comment on.
Can I just add?
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am, please.
I have no experience in this, but I just want to suggest something to you. Maybe it's a good idea for you to take up a job with one of these startups to begin with. Instead of one of these big industries, you could take up a job with these startups. They pay well. My elder son is working with a startup in Berlin. But you shouldn't restrict yourself only to India. Take up a job anywhere. Take up a job with startups. You have to learn so many things if you want to run a business, that I think it's not a skill that you get when you're doing MD pharmacology. So I think it would be, and the best way to learn it is to be on the job.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
All the best.
Thank you so much for that. We have Dr. Bharat, do you have anything? Or I think Sudhir Prithvi has raised his hand. So any of you can ask your question.
Hello?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Actually, my question is, what are the things I should keep in mind while applying for an internship during my residency period? And what is the importance of internship during residency period?
Sure. Do you want to read it to some faculty or anyone is okay?
Yeah, Viraj, sir.
Dr. Viraj.
Yes, but I would also request Dr. Anil to comment here, because he is really running one of the very good programs of internship in India. So I will make some initial comments. I think when we developed this internship, it was with a very clear motive. You come to the internship to learn how the industry is working, so you understand what you will get into. And at the end of that internship, when you go back to your final residency, you decide, okay, do I want to get into industry or no? It's not necessary that everyone has to get into industry. No, you might feel that, no, this is not in for me. I need to do something else. On the other hand, we thought that we should learn from all of you. So Dr. Anil, Amit, they all developed a very good program in which the interns who were coming, they helped us in developing phase 4 and real world evidence epidemiological studies. They developed protocols for us. And this is a very important part of the internship, which is very different. Internship is not only one way, but we want to learn from you. And in fact, one or two of, I forget their names, but one or two of our interns who interned with us, they were from, I think, GSMC, Mumbai. They also presented some of the papers at some international congress and got awards. So this is what we would definitely look towards internship. So you will definitely learn how the industry works and then take a decision for yourself. But we will learn from you how science is moving, how the new generation is thinking of, and actually help you on hands-on experience. But Dr. Anil, here, your comments on internship.
I think, Dr. Viraj, you covered most of the points. I think we are also learning. As we started a couple of years back, we have actually refined the internship based on the feedback which you receive from the students as well. That what are you looking up to? So typically, like, of course, depending on whether your university allows for how long on-site internship. So typically we have 2 months of internship. The first week goes into giving the orientation of what exactly we are speaking in the virtual world. You will actually will interact with the regulatory team, you interact with the clinical operations team, you interact with the leaders from the therapy areas, you will interact with the different other functions which are there, which are aligned to the medical affairs function. So you will have that exposure, and then you will be given the project charter, as you rightly mentioned. Dr. Viraj gave the examples. So where this project is given, and then you work very closely and deeply in one of the functions which you opt for. Whether you want to learn regulatory, then you work with the regulatory team on a regulatory project. If you are interested in medical affairs, then you get a project in the medical affairs. Similarly, in clinical operations. So depending on what are your interests in the initial week of the induction, you opt for a project and then you work in that project closely with that team. And then eventually, again, there will be an opportunity to present to the leaders. You will network with the wider teams, be part of the external interactions also, that how medical affairs is interacting with the top KEs. Sometimes you participate in the organization-wide initiatives which are happening during that internship period, which could be an organization town hall, for example. So then you know the entire organizations, how different functions are contributing and communicating about the same. So I think those are the experiences which we create for the intern, and that gives you a holistic learning. Then you decide whether really you want to pursue, which function you want to pursue as a starting career, what are the skills required for that function, and it gives you a kind of a very deeper orientation beyond this PharmaSteer orientation program.
So what things I have to keep in mind while applying for an internship, sir, to any company? What things I should keep in mind and what things I should check?
Yes, I think internship will broadly give you an orientation to the particular function or the entire organization also. So you should look forward for which organizations have the internship program, first of all. You should probably be aware about what is the overall, what kind of skills you will develop or what kind of exposure you will get during that internship program. And then whenever the opportunity is there, you should apply for it. Most importantly, and just learning from the past experience, there was one intern one medical student, very much interested in internship program, but the college did not allow that. So you have to probably check also that does my college or university allow that formally or not? And if not, I think you should start working. And good example of this PharmaSteer is that intern worked in their college, and he said, maybe I am not able to do it, but he worked with the college management and created a mechanism by which internship is given to the subsequent students which are joining. So I think that's a great contribution, not only for this PharmaSteer program, but also about our internship program, because that college now is open for providing that internship opportunity to their students. Good contribution from the student, I would say.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sudhir, and thank you so much, Dr. Anil, as well as Dr. Viraj, for that questions. Since we are already ahead of time, we might not be able to take your questions. I know there's questions in the chat box as well, but please park these questions for the next faculty live interactions. You have 4 days to interact with faculty. So do not think that we've not answered your questions. We will have those questions backhand as well, and next time we would put you at first so that the next faculty can answer these questions. With this, I would like to thank everyone who has joined the PharmaSteer sessions, registered as well as joined today's sessions. Our esteemed faculty, Dr. Urmila ma'am, Dr. Luke, Dr. Viraj, as well as Dr. Anil for taking us through the entire sessions, let it be new clinical trials or life of a field medical. How do we shift to let the top talent move around the company, as well as what is a fresher's role in the company or roles of pharmaceutical physicians in the industry. With this, I would like to thank each and every one of you. Yes, sorry, Dr. Bharat, thank you. Poster topics will be given to you via mail. So kindly wait for your mail. Your topics would be given via mail as well as the guidelines on Monday. With this, thank you so much. A happy weekend to everyone. Let's meet on the next week on a Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Viraj.